Okay, everyone, let's call this meeting to order. This is the Boise Parks and Recreation Commission regular monthly meeting. Let's start with a roll call.
Aber, Carter,
Present.
Johnson,
Present.
Raber, Rosiska,
Present.
Stidham, Urban,
Present.
Okay, we've got our quorum. So we've got new business today. Agenda item A is approval of the minutes for June 16th, 2022. Do I have a motion
I so move we approve the minutes.
and a second? Any discussion? Okay, let's have a vote. All in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries. So we're on to our second item, which is the Eagle Rock Park Court Conversion Project Proposal. And this is a public hearing. So let me just sort of lay things out a little bit. So first, we're going to hear a short presentation from the department. Director Holloway is going to put on that presentation. Next, we'll hold the public hearing. So anyone that wants to testify at the public hearing, please make sure you sign up in the back, write legibly. I think we'll have the remote attendees speak first, and then the in-person. We'll close the public hearing. The commission will have an opportunity for discussion and then a decision. And we'll have further direction on how that testimony is going to take place right before the public meeting's open. So with that, I'll turn it over to Director Holloway.
Thank you, Mr. President, commission members. Appreciate the opportunity to bring forth to you a proposal to look at some tennis court conversions into pickleball at our Eagle Rock Park. And so we'll just jump right into that. So to give you a little background on this, and I think we have talked a lot in our commission meetings about the department's responsibility and this commission's responsibility in balancing the needs, not only of the pickleball community, but also all of our users of our systems that we have throughout the city. A lot of needs, and we do our best to try to balance those needs with the resources that we have available to us. So on Eagle Rock Park, just a little background, it's an 11-acre park in the Boise's East End. The current layout, there are 2 tennis courts there, and there are also a bring your own net pickleball option where you can bring your own net, set it up, and actually play pickleball on the existing courts. We did do some court observation. I believe we did that over a 2-week period in May. I will put the disclaimer on that court observation. It was not scientific by any stretch. It was staff members going to the courts at different times of day, different days of the week, and observing the number of folks that were utilizing tennis versus those that were utilizing pickleball. But in no means are the results of that really being used to pit one group against the other. It was just to get a feel for an anecdotal feeling that that the courts may have some underutilization. So looking at our inventory right now in our department, we currently have 76 tennis courts across Boise. There are additional 51 courts that are available for public play at the Boise School District. I'll clarify that that is more of an evening and weekend and summer available. The district prefers to not have people on those courts during the school day. We also have 12 dual courts that are lined for both tennis and pickleball. We have 20 bring your own net pickleball locations similar to what we have at Eagle Rock. And then we have 21 designated pickleball courts. We did what we feel was a significant community outreach. We sent notifications and had communications with the Idaho Tennis Association and our local pickleball association as well. We had a meeting with the East End Neighborhood Association to discuss the proposal. We also sent a postcard out to residents and homeowners within a half-mile radius of Eagle Rock Park. And then we also did next door notifications about the proposal and that we scheduled an upcoming public meeting with the neighborhood. And again, invited our tennis community, the neighborhood, as well as our pickleball community. Our feedback was really good. We had 80+ people attend the public meeting that was held at Eagle Rock on the 6th. And we gathered feedback on court conversion proposals at the public meeting, and then through a significant amount of feedback through our BPR email as well. So before you this evening, Mr. President and commission members, are 3 proposals that we would like you to consider. Proposal 1 would be to keep both tennis courts as is with no changes, essentially do nothing, and continue with the bring your own net pickleball option as well. And then Chloe, I think maybe we got something there that, so keep the tennis courts as is, but so the underlying piece there, we just made some last minute changes. I don't believe that applies to that, does it? Because we weren't going to keep one dedicated tennis court and one tennis court with 2 bring your own net. Is that what we do now? Okay. So option 1 is we do nothing but maintain the current process we have in place at Eagle Rock Park. Option 2 would be convert the 2 tennis courts. And we believe that in our layout, and we'll show you a graph of that, that if we are able to use the entire footprint of the park, so that's sideline to sideline inside that tennis court footprint, we can safely convert the 2 tennis courts into 6 pickleball courts. So that would be option 2. So option 1 is do nothing. Option 2 would be convert the 2 tennis into 6 pickleball. Option 3 would be a hybrid format where we would maintain 1 tennis court and then convert the second tennis court into 2 pickleball courts. On this one, I think the original conversation with the neighborhood was that, and with our pickleball community, is that we could get 3 pickleball courts onto 1 tennis court. And after looking at the fact that it would be a very, very tight fit, our design team and myself, mainly myself, I did not feel comfortable with jamming 3 into that 1 tennis court. I do not believe it gives us enough space in between courts or actually on baseline or either baseline. And so 2 fit comfortably, 3 do not. So our apologies that I think we jumped the gun a little bit and saying we could get 3, but after further review and really a comfort from a safety standpoint, the best we would be able to do is 2 pickleball courts on 1 tennis court. And this gives you that layout format on what that would look like. And we did look at changing even the direction and going instead of east, west, north, south, whatever that would look like, and still did not have enough space to get the 3 in on one tennis court. So, but that gives you the 2 options of the conversions. We get the 6 because we can use the entire footprint. We get 2 if we're looking at just 1 tennis court. So the feedback we received, not surprisingly, there is strong support for the full 6 court conversion from our pickleball community. Tennis players are opposed to decreasing playing space at this neighborhood park. We did get some feedback from the tennis community that a hybrid option, that number 3 option, is acceptable, but it really was relayed to us more along the line. If we're going to lose something, we should be able to keep something here at this neighborhood park. But obviously, if they had their choice, it would be not to do anything and look at that option number 1. There are also a lot of concerns we received on parking, noise, and then just the increase of the park use, which of those 3 that you see on the screen, that's the least because we like seeing parks being used. And so, but I do understand noise complaints. I think I can speak on behalf of neighbors that live around Manitou and Willow Lane, that there's certainly some challenges there. That's why we ask our pickleball community to be done at 8 o'clock at night. And we get mostly compliance on that, not 100%. So we still hear from the neighborhood that people are playing after that 8 o'clock hour, but that's our compromise with the neighborhood because we all know that the sound of that ball hitting that paddle can make some significant noise. And if neighbors are close by, then that certainly could become an issue. At Eagle Rock, we believe that we are far enough away from the residential portion that surrounds the park that was also one of the considerations that made it a location for a possible conversion. So back to Mr. President and commission members, what's before you this evening are the three options. Option one, keep the tennis courts as is with no changes. Option two, convert the entire tennis complex into 6 pickleball courts, or option three would be the hybrid format where we keep 1 tennis and then go with 2 pickleball courts. So, Mr. President, commission members, with that, I will rest and certainly be open for any questions that you have.
Thank you, Director Holloway. Any preliminary questions from members of the commission?
Thank you, President. I have one question. Looking at those 2 options, the convert to 6 pickleball courts or convert to 2. My question is, if we went with a hybrid option, is there a possibility that later, as we see demand grow, we could add that, we could convert that additional 4 pickleball courts on that tennis side?
Mr. President, Commissioner Johnson, the short answer would be yes. Court conversions are they're actually fairly easy to do, and they're fairly inexpensive. And so, yes, the short answer would be that. The longer answer would be going through this process again and making sure that everybody has a say in what we're thinking about doing. And we're happy to do that because our jobs are to do the best we can to meet the demands of our citizens. And so we certainly could look at that in the future.
Okay, well, with that, we'll move towards the public hearing here. So let me just sort of talk some procedure and ground rules. So as noted, we're going to let the folks that are participating remotely testify first. Then we'll move to those that have signed up to testify or speak here in person. So everyone's going to have 3 minutes. That's a hard deadline. We've got to make sure that everyone has the same amount of time and that we move this forward. The exception is if you're speaking on behalf of an organization, you'll have 10 minutes. If you are speaking on behalf of an organization, only one person can speak on behalf of that organization. We'll ask that you approach the podium, state your name and address. That's when we'll start your time, and then proceed with your 3 minutes. All the written comments have been circulated to the members of the commission, including those that were received late. We've got those here. We've all reviewed those. So your written comments have been received. A couple of things that have come up in some other hearings. Sometimes members of the public want to ask some questions. It's appropriate to ask those questions. It's not practical to have sort of a back and forth with answers. So what I would ask would be, if you ask a question, that's fine. Any member of the commission can note that down, and during our discussion after, we can ask that question to the commission or to the department and they can answer. Again, we run into issues of we can't have a back and forth, and then some people say, well, why did the department answer my question and not others, that sort of thing. And then we want to encourage participation by everyone. Some people are outgoing, some people not so much. Some people are used to testifying, others it may be their first. So let's be respectful, no yays and boos. We want to be sure that everyone has the opportunity to feel comfortable to say their piece. So with that, I think we'll open the public hearing and let's welcome those that are with us remotely. Maybe pause, Chloe.
So for those who would like to testify via Zoom, please use the raised hand feature so I know you would like to testify. All right, we will start with Merrill Mccord.
So Ms. McCord, can you?
Here I am.
Okay, perfect. Will you state your name and address for the record, and then we'll get your 3 minutes started here.
Righto. My name is Merrill Mccord. My address is 502 North Pacific Street, Boise, Idaho, 83706. And I am an advocate for the 6 pickleball courts to be that conversion to happen. And I think it's in the city's best interest to be following the trends of a very popular sport that accommodate all ages and just about every month of the year for outside play. That's all I want to say. And I thank you, Commission, for all your time and effort towards this. I'm done.
Thank you, Ms. McCord. All right, anyone else on the Zoom platform?
Pam Fobby.
Fabry.
Okay, Pam Fabry, we've got you. Can you state your name and address and we'll start your time?
My name is Pam Fabry and I live at 302 North Bacon Drive. And I am right literally behind those tennis courts. And, you know, I hear the tennis balls going, you know, for most of the day, unless it's too hot. I would definitely choose option 1 and 3 at my next choice. You know, this is in my backyard, literally. And I don't think listening to 24 players playing pickleball all day long, it would be equivalent to me to listening to dogs barking all day long. I'm retired, I'm home. I think leaving it the way it is would be my choice. I think Parks and Rec hopefully can find something that's bigger, more tournament friendly, in a different location for the growing population of pickleball people. All sports are fun. We cherish that about our area, being involved in a lot of different sports. But we also, where I live, contend with concerts. You know, there's a lot of action that happens in our little neighborhood down here. A lot of people enjoy our foothills. The parking situation is trying at times. A lot of people take advantage of our trails. And that's all I have to say.
Great, thank you. Next up on the remote platform.
No one else has raised their hand.
Okay. Well, maybe if you are on Zoom and want to raise your hand later, we might give one last call at the end of this, but for now, we'll turn to in person. And I do want to note, we have Councilmember Halliburton and Councilmember Sanchez here. Welcome. Okay, so let's start the in-person public hearing, and I'm just going to go through the list of names. Apologies in advance for not being able to read your handwriting or pronounce your names. So we've got Ken Weingartner.
How you guys doing?
Hi. All right, please state your name and address.
Name is Ken Weingartner. Live at 3707 West Vaughn Street, Boise, Idaho, 83705. I have been playing pickleball, I would say, for about 3 to 4 years now. And I retired 2 years ago. And people asked me, what are you going to do? I said, play pickleball. So that's what I'm doing. And the sport is growing like crazy. And I'm noticing in the last few years that we're actually getting more younger players now. So the sport is taken off. One of the reasons I enjoy playing and why I want to play, and I honestly feel like it's, in a sense, saving me, is that I can't do the sports I used to do. This is what we have now. I mean, even tennis for me is like, it's too hard on the knees. So pickleball is like the one game you can have, and a lot of people here know this, that we can still go out with and have a knee injury, a hand injury, a foot injury, and we can get out and still get some exercise and play a game that relatively doesn't take a hell of a lot of effort. So it's a great game, and it's great for those reasons, and it keeps older people vibrant and out there playing. That being said, I just think looking at your numbers and seeing the courts that are available, that there's definitely room for 6 more courts. So that's what I'm pushing for. You know, I'd like to see you guys see if you can convert over those 6 dedicated courts. And that's all I got. Thank you.
All right, next we have Diana Durland.
Hi,
Hi.
thanks for meeting with us today.
Yep, please state your name and address.
Okay, Diana Durland, 1951 South Manitou Avenue, right on Manitou Park, Boise, Idaho, 83706. I am 64 years old and I now identify as PF, a pickleball fanatic. So do many folks behind me. 5 to 6 years ago, I would have identified as a tennis fanatic, but my knees began disagreeing with that assessment. So my tennis days are over. Now what? Thank the Lord I discovered pickleball. It has allowed me to maintain my active and competitive lifestyle. I 100% believe that the sport has allowed countless ex-tennis players and new pickleball players to remain active, keep moving and grooving. It's a kind of sport, pardon me, it's a kind sport on our body, easy to play. We have something to look for every day. How fortunate I've been to meet this large group of fun, active, interesting, old and young players. Many, many friends I will have forever. I enjoyed decades of USTA tennis league, some of the best times of my life. I don't ever remember being short of tennis courts. I don't ever remember having to wait in line anywhere to play tennis. There was always a court available somewhere close. However, my experience hasn't been the same with pickleball. Our Boise courts are absolutely packed. It's only fair that we share our park space. We are all taxpayers after all. I'd really like to enjoy the rest of my active years playing pickleball, not hanging a paddle on a fence and waiting in line. We've all felt growing pains that Boise is experiencing. The same is happening to pickleball. I've seen the numbers quadruple in the 4 or 5 years I've played. You've actually read and heard just this past week in the Idaho Press, actually, how quickly the sport is growing. Mark my words, some of these folks opposing pickleball courts now are going to find themselves moving from tennis to pickleball before they know it. Please, please help us grow this sport efficiently as pickleball becomes so popular in this city. We need these 2 courts to expand to 6 dedicated pickleball courts. We would be forever grateful that you've taken this positive step for the pickleball community of Boise. Thank you.
Okay. I prefer not. Again, just no one wants to stand up and get clapped or not clapped, et cetera. We'll just keep it as low key as we can. So we've got Steve Moreno.
Good evening. I'm Steve Moreno. I live at 5192 North Liverpool, 83714. So I'm from the other side of town. And I'm here to offer my congratulations to the members of this commission for their foresight in years ago recognizing that pickleball was going to be a hot item. And so I'm a lifetime racquetball player. And my knees are great, but my back went to pot. And so I ended up with back surgery. And after back surgery, my wife came up with this crazy idea. If it hurts so much when you play, why don't you quit? So I said, okay, I'll quit. And then I started to be a problem at the house. So then I started looking around, what could I do? And a buddy and I went down to the senior center, the Boise Senior Center, and got introduced to pickleball. What the heck is pickleball? How am I going to learn to play pickleball? Well, you guys did such a great job. You provided me with a paddle. You gave me a ball to play with. You gave me a space in which to do it. Okay, that's fabulous. So it cost me nothing. All right. So I got hooked on this game because, as Diana said, you could play and you didn't hurt afterwards. So that's my origin story. And I guess the question I have is, why are we here? We're here because you guys as an organization have been so successful in promoting the sport. You know, you double striped some courts. That was great. You took the 3 courts we had down at the senior center and you made them 4. Why did you make them 4? Because you saw people standing in line waiting to play. I was at Manitou this morning. We had 4 city courts that were full. We had 2 nets, 2 portable nets that the club owns. And we had 10 people waiting. All 6 courts were full. And we had 10 people waiting. That was at 8:20 this morning. Okay. So I'm here to push for the concept of the conversion to 6, because I think that's what we need. And I have several reasons for that. I think if we make the conversion to 6, it's going to be the first step in addressing the numerical imbalance between the number of tennis courts and the number of pickleball courts. The second item I would say is it would be a positive step in equalizing the geographic distribution of the courts, because there's none on the east side. All right. The third thing I would say is it reduces the crowding at the courts, because now we can spread the load to 6 more additional courts. And finally, I would say it's going to have a significant impact on the very small number of courts we have, and it's going to be done in a very cost-effective manner for under $10,000. So my hope tonight is that we have demonstrated that the city's foresight has fostered the growth of pickleball, which put a heavy demand on the existing facilities.
Mr.
We
Moreno.
created, Mr. Marino will sit down. Thank you for your
Thank
time.
you.
I appreciate it.
Here's what I'll do. I'll just give a wave when you've got like 30 seconds left to give people some time to wrap up. Next is Jane Hostany. And Jane is a former neighbor of mine. Welcome, Jane.
Hello. My name is Jane Hostany. I live at 829 South Gray Eagle Way, Boise 83712. I am in favor of and fully support converting the 2 tennis courts at Eagle Rock to 6 dedicated pickleball courts. These courts are desperately needed in the East End. Right now, there are only 4 dedicated pickleball courts east of 50th Street West, and those courts are at Manitou Park. Compared to the number of tennis courts, to me, this doesn't seem equitable. It is really crowded at Manitou. I was there a little later than Steve, but what I saw this morning, all 7 courts were in use, and I counted 12 paddles lined up on the right side and 5 paddles on the left. That is a total of 17 paddles. 7 courts times 4 people, 28 players plus 17 waiting to play, a total of at least 45 players at Manitou this morning. And this has been a typical day lately. It is becoming the norm. As you can imagine, wait times can be very long. This morning, a person told me that she waited 30 minutes before she even got to play her first game. Why do I play pickleball? I play because it is so much fun. It is a great sport and I love it. I play because it gets me outdoors and provides me so much needed exercise and that we all need. It keeps us active and healthy. But most of all, I love playing pickleball for the social aspects it provides me. I have made many new friends from playing. I live alone and I look forward going to Manitou 5 to 6 days a week to play and seeing my pickleball friends. It is a great group of people, so very friendly and happy people. On some days, if I am feeling down or lonely, I drive to Manitou and just walking up to the park, my mood is lifted instantly. I can't stress how much this is so important to me and to my mental health. Pickleball is taking the country by storm. It is a sport for all ages, not just for the retired. Just this week, I played with a 12-year-old boy who was really very good. We are seeing more and more young people taking up the sport, and it is exciting. Please consider converting the 2 tennis courts at Eagle Rock to 6 dedicated pickleball courts, as these courts are greatly needed in the East End. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have Deanne Campbell.
Hi, my name is Deanne Campbell, and I live at 1468 South Boulder View Lane in Warm Springs Village. I want to thank you all for allowing me to speak today. I'm going to follow up with what Jane said about the social aspect. My husband Ken and I moved to Warm Springs Village in 2020 from Burley, Idaho, and we're retired and avid pickleball players. We each play 5 or 6 times a week. One of my concerns moving to Boise, the big city, from a small town was meeting people. I'm happy to say that through the pickleball community, I have found a warm and welcoming environment in Boise, and especially in the East End. The one disadvantage of living in the East End is because we play so often and our only dedicated courts are Manitou, is that we don't have a lot of playing spots to play. While the group that plays at Manitou is wonderful, the courts are often crowded with many people waiting, as you've been hearing. Eagle Rock is a park closest to our home, about 3 minutes away. I do get to play at Eagle Rock with friends occasionally because they have their own nets. We don't personally have our own net, so my husband and I can't go or just play with our neighbors. We feel Eagle Rock is the perfect location to add more permanent courts to the East End. Both the cities of Eagle and Meridian, and of course there's Hubble, have quite a few dedicated courts. Boise, but in the East End, does not. I've been told that their space at Eagle Rock is adequate for 6 courts. This would more than double the courts that we have available, which would help relieve the crowding. I also want to mention the potential loss of the 2 tennis courts. While I support any and all activities for adults, most of the parks in the East End that I've been to with my grandchildren, because we try to find all of the different play areas, do have dedicated tennis courts. I would think that it's logical to take one of those dedicated tennis court facilities, convert it to the 6 pickleball courts, to satisfy the needs of this rapidly growing sport. Once again, thank you for your time and consideration of our request for the 6 pickleball courts.
Mr. Chair, if I
Yes.
might take a moment, I just want to welcome, and I'm so sorry, what was your name again? Deanne Campbell. Burley's my hometown, and so I very much, very happily welcome you to the City of Trees, and thank you so much for getting engaged in what you care about here in the city. So welcome.
Okay, next we have Ken Campbell.
Hi, Ken Campbell, 1468 South Boulder View in Warm Springs Village. You just heard from my wife, and as usual, she expressed some of our thoughts more eloquently and effectively than I can. So mostly, I just want to second some of what she said. I guess the one thing I would say or try and emphasize is as a number of us will, I think, testify today, there's a great deal of unmet demand for pickleball around here. And this seems to move to 6 courts at Eagle Rock would provide an opportunity for a low cost and low impact to help to reduce that logjam that we experience when we go to play pickleball. So we appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Dixie, is it Pewt?
My name is Dixie Pewt, and I live at 1600 Sunrise Rim, Boise, Idaho, 83705. I wanted to tell everybody basically the benefits of pickleball for the older generation. And I've always played sports of one type or another, and as we got older, we couldn't afford to play a lot of golf, and we were looking for something and found pickleball. And it has allowed us to stay active and to be able to play at all levels. What other sport can someone in their 80s play alongside somebody in their 20s and still have a competitive and fun game? It is a great sport to help with mental health issues and depression. It gives people a reason to stay active and have a social outlet and meet new people. We play pickleball all year long. We played in the wintertime when the weather was warm enough and when the courts were clear, and it kept us going. The positive effect that playing pickleball has on older generations is immeasurable. It helps keep us young and helps us to maintain our health. We cannot wait another 3 to 5 years for new courts that might be built. Some of us may not be around that long, and sometimes our health doesn't hold out. The 2 tennis courts that we can convert into 6 pickleball courts would help immensely to offset the growing numbers of players looking for a place to play on the east side of town. There are numerous tennis courts all over the city. We were only asking for 2 of them to convert into 6 pickleball courts. I have paid taxes for many years and would like to see that my tax dollars will be used for something I can use in the later years of my life. We are just asking for equality and fairness in your decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Larry Messmer.
Hi, my name is Larry Messmer. I'm working on my 70th year as a Boise native. I've seen a lot of growth from.
Mr. Messmer, can you state your address for the record?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
1600 Sunrise Rim, Boise, Idaho, 83705.
Great, thank you.
And I've seen a lot of growth in Boise from 35,000 to over 450,000 people. I've seen a lot of tennis facilities, courts go in, and very limited on the pickleball. I'm in favor of converting these 2 courts into 6 pickleball courts. And I think it's so good for the health and the community and social events and stuff there. And somehow if we could take the emotion out of the equation, I think it's pretty much a no-brainer to spend less than $8,000 to make the conversion versus $50,000 a piece for new courts. And that's my bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Lainey Compton.
My name is Lainey Compton. I live at 1305 South Leadville, Boise, 83706. I'm a tennis player. I've been playing tennis since I was in high school. When practicing for tennis league here in Boise, East Boise last fall, I never one time waited for a court, not once. But I'm also a pickleball player. So I've played pickleball for about the past 4 or 5 years. I can't remember a time when I went to play pickleball when I did not wait for a court. That's just unfortunately the sad scenario for pickleball players. One of the reasons I think pickleball is the fastest growing sport in the United States right now is because not only is it fun, it's affordable. It is a multi-generational sport, as we've heard. It brings people of all ethnicities together. That's what I love about Boise. Not everybody looks like me. We need some diversity and some inclusion. It brings people of different socioeconomic standings together, people with different emotional and intellectual abilities. And isn't that the culture we want for Boise? I want that, and I'm sure you want that. So the inequality of the courts, if you live on the east side, like I do, I think is pretty staggering. So to convert the courts from 2 tennis to 6 pickleball really makes a lot of sense, because it's probably going to be years before we really have the funds to build 6 courts or more without doing a conversion. So I just think it's economical, it's equitable, and I support the 2 tennis to 6 pickleball conversion today. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, Carrie Ellen Elliott. And Carrie Ellen is a longtime family friend. Welcome.
I'm the oddball. My name's Carrie Ellen Elliott. I live at 1309 East Lewis Street in the East End. I am a tennis player, and I thank you for your time. I served on the Boise City Comprehensive Plan Subcommittee in the 90s. A key objective of that plan was to provide small neighborhood parks and larger multi-purpose parks or regional parks for larger group or sports activities. Kudos to the administrators, commissioners, and employees that vested in that plan and continue to do so today. Tennis and pickleball are growing sports. I'm not going to argue with you on that one. Tennis, more people picked up a tennis racket in the last 2 years, 28% more, 23% more rackets were sold just last year. Tennis is alive and well in Boise, and that is confirmed by the fact that the 2013 Davis Cup event was held in Boise. I'm talking about neighborhood park here. Eagle Rock is functioning as intended now. The parking lot, picnic area, bathrooms, playground, and courts are conveniently clustered on one end. 2 courts in question are properly scaled for a neighborhood park. Uses drop in, first come, first served, and I would hate to see that change. My husband and I played this morning. We hopped on our bikes, we drove down there, we hit some balls, we did some drills, and we came home. Nobody was using the pickleball courts for the first time in a long time. Usually they're occupied and the tennis courts are occupied as well. And we are disappointed, but we go home and we live to try another day. Dedicating the only tennis courts at this East End park for pickleball to the exclusion of tennis will change this neighborhood park. Pickleball is a party. Lots of people, lots of noise, lots of cars, and all of that is great and tons of fun. But it is an activity better suited to a park that can absorb it, where any negative impact or other users or neighbors it's remote. Converting these courts to pickleball satisfies no one. You've heard it today. They need a place to play. It doesn't satisfy the pickleball players, tennis players, or the neighborhood. 3 things. In order to preserve Eagle Rock Park and accommodate both tennis and pickleball and assure the pickleball community will have an appropriate place to play, I recommend the commission consider the following strategy. Options 1 and 3 are basically the same. The first option is my preference. It gives everybody a chance to play pickleball and tennis. Keep the tennis net up. Number 3, build dedicated pickleball courts in another location, one of the existing larger parks that has available space, or a new park acquisition. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Okay, Howard Wiley. I love your email address, Wiley Coyote.
Super genius. But I don't know what Jimmy is doing now. Hi, Jimmy.
Okay,
My
can you,
name's Howard Wiley, and my address is 4991 North Bitterbush Drive, Boise, Idaho 83703. Can you? Yeah, I go. Perfect, thank you. I'm not a math major, psychology, actually. So math not necessarily hasn't been my strength, but I think round ballpark numbers, 127 tennis courts and 19 designated pickleball courts says it all in terms of equity, fairness, and if that's what we're looking at. And really, and you've heard it already, this is a community activity. It really does serve the community. We have people of all ages, backgrounds, ethnicities, as has been mentioned out there. And to follow up on the previous speaker, it is a party in a sense, and it's a community get together every day, and it's happening right here in Boise. We just don't have enough places to do it. So thank you for your time. Thank you for considering this. And I would vote for the 6 designated pickleball courts at Eagle Rock.
thank you. Okay, Shelley Hallam.
Hi, thank you for your time. My name is Shelley Hallam and my address is 2654 South Shadywood Lane.
So Shelley, just sorry to interrupt. I've got here a number, 5 people that have BPC listed as they're representing. So can you tell me what that means? And then we'll have one, if that's an organization, we'll have one person have 10 minutes on behalf of the
Yeah,
organization.
he's gonna, Chris will speak about that. I was just following Henry's lead because Henry said, aren't you gonna put down the Boise Pickleball Club? So no, I'm representing myself.
Okay. So 3 minutes, go ahead.
Okay, and my zip code is 83716. I live in Boise and I vote for the 6 dedicated pickleball courts at Eagle Rock Park. I've been playing for about 4 years now, and I average 6 days a week. I meet new people every time I go. And it's really nice to meet more people, but it's also very overcrowded. I'm a taxpayer and my taxes have paid for these public courts. We should have equal rights to use them. We're only asking for 2% of the available tennis courts. Most of the tennis courts I drive by daily are not filled with tennis players, but they're pickleball players of all ages. Since there's literally no timetable or funding for new pickleball courts at this time, it's only fair and equitable that these 6 courts be made into pickleball courts now. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. All right, Debbie Gould.
Hi, I'm Debbie Gould, 2369 East Warm Springs, Boise 83712. I am totally in favor of converting the 2 tennis courts into 6 pickleball courts. Being fairly new to Boise and moving here right before the pandemic, pickleball has been my life. It has made me mentally and socially interactive with other people. And I feel that with the growth of the community and the youngsters, I know that they're all taking it in junior high school now. I think it is imperative that we pursue turning into 6 courts. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Vivian Lizenbacher.
I put Boise pickleball as well. I didn't need to do that.
Okay, no, all we're asking for is just if there's one person that's representing them, make that clear and we'll give them the 10 minutes. Perfect.
My name is Vivian Lizenbacher. I live at 2557 South Fallingbrook Lane. I'm Southeast Boise. I've been playing for 10 years. It keeps me very active. Like everybody else, not everybody else, I played tennis for 20 years. I played racquetball for 10 years. And I love pickleball. I hope I could play pickleball for 20 more. I concur with everything that's been said here today. I don't want to repeat everything. We've had some wonderful people. I love these people. I play with them every day. Please give us these 6 dedicated courts. We really need it. Thank you.
Thank you. Allison Formal.
I also represent myself.
Okay.
Thanks. Allison Formal. I live at 2550 East Warm Springs Avenue, 83712 in the Warm Springs Villages. So I'm an East Ender also. Thanks, Parks and Rec and all of you for considering the option of 6 pickleball courts at Eagle Rock. I support that. I use Eagle Rock a lot. I met my guy at Eagle Rock. I hike Eagle Rock. My dog and I have run around Eagle Rock like nobody's business on leash. And I have played pickleball there quite a bit. We take our own net and we play there. And if there weren't people playing there this morning, it's most likely because I think it's Parks and Recs or it's something through Fort Boise where they have pickleball classes for children Monday or Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and maybe they've just stopped. So if we know that, now we'll be back to playing pickleball there. I just want to let you know that, in my opinion, this is an opportunity to kind of look at the world that we know is an unfair world and do something to make it slightly more fair. There are, according to Boise Parks and Rec's website, 30 Boise parks with tennis courts. Out of those 30 Boise parks, 18 are within 5 miles of Eagle Rock. So there are plenty of options for people that currently play tennis at Eagle Rock to find very close places to play, including Fort Boise at 2.3 miles away. There are 9 additional of those 30 Boise parks within 10 miles. There are only one, Hobble Creek, which is outside of that 10-mile radius. As far as, of course, pickleball goes, you know, there's only one in a 5-mile radius to Eagle Rock, and that's Manitou. I advocate, of course, for the 6 pickleball courts because it's kind of a fair thing to do. I mean, for these taxpayers, for this community. I heard from Parks and Recs that was so nice to have the meeting with us all on July 6th about wanting people to recreate. This is a recreational sport that, again, you've heard, I mean, it's all encompassing. It actually builds community because pickleball doesn't, require that you come with your own set of players. There are people that come individually, put a paddle rather, on the fence, and they rotate in after 1 or 2 games that other people have played. It's very inclusive. It's a community building sport, and we have all become a community as a result of pickleball. So I thank you so much for allowing this opportunity to speak, and I hope that you'll give us these 6 courts so we can play. Thank you.
Thank you. So next is Carol, and I see an SCH, but I can't decipher what's after that.
It's Carol Schindele.
Perfect.
And I'm
Welcome.
testifying for myself as well. I was just following the crowd and put BPC like everybody else. I'd like to thank you for your time and giving us all the opportunity to testify today.
Would you state your address for the record?
6082 South Icicle Avenue, 83709.
Thank you.
And I retired in 2020. And as things started to normalize after the COVID epidemic and we were allowed to start going out again, I was looking for something to do. And I discovered Boise Pickleball through Parks and Rec and took some lessons. At the lessons, not only people my age were there, but people older, younger, different ethnicities, different backgrounds. And I'd say 75% of the people I took lessons with are still playing. I've met a lot of wonderful people through playing pickleball. And I have also noticed a big increase in the waiting line, and not only at Manitou, but I've played in Meridian, Hopple Creek, Willow, and other places. And I am strongly in support of amending it to 6 pickleball courts. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Amy Tosfilaki. I know I got that wrong, but hopefully enough to give you notice that it's you.
All right, Amy Tyvolkoski, 1133 East Washington Street, 83712. I live about 3/4 of a mile from Eagle Rock Park. I didn't get notified of this conversion proposition because I'm not within the half mile, even though I do consider it my neighborhood park. So I want to thank Park and Rec for being here and considering this. You're trying to keep all the stakeholders happy, and I appreciate that. I just hope we remember this as a hearing on Eagle Rock Park, not about how great pickleball is and how they need more courts, because it's so obvious they need a lot more courts for sure. I'm a tennis player and a pickleball player. I use the tennis courts at Eagle Rock Park to practice my serve, hit against the backboard, and practice with friends. I belong to the Boise Racket Club, but it's hard to get courts. You have to pay for the courts. And so to play with friends or practice my serve, I can just hop on my bike and be in Eagle Rock Park in a few minutes. And I don't want to take the whole court at the club to just play by myself or with a friend. That's what local parks are for. So I do feel strongly that we should not pit pickleball players and tennis players against each other. We're all people that love to go out, have fun, smack a ball around, meet people, and get some exercise. That's the great thing that we have in common. We should not be opponents. We all want more courts for pickleball. The question is, do we want to rob Peter to pay Paul? Do we take existing amenities out of all our local parks one by one? As you know, we will. If this passes, it'll go to Bagley Park and other parks. Or do we somehow figure out how to build more pickleball courts that are dedicated pickleball in areas that aren't noisy? Industrial areas, perhaps by the river somewhere, proper pickleball courts. Okay, that don't affect the quality of life for the neighbors who just want some peace on their deck at night. However, it seems this world is not ideal, and at the moment, the Parks and Rec Department has chosen to spend their money on other projects. And I would hope that given the demand for pickleball courts by the public, that the new pickleball courts do get put into the budget for next year. It seems to be quite the priority here. The sport is only going to grow, and this demand is not going to go away. 6 courts are not going to solve this problem. So I moved here several years ago from a small town in Wisconsin, population 10,000. And I read that this town recently built 4 dedicated pickleball courts in the main park next to the 2 existing courts. And I wonder if a town of 10,000 can build 4 pickleball courts, how a city the size of Boise can't build 20 pickleball courts. This hearing is about Eagle Rock Park specifically, my neighborhood park. And so in my opinion, as a player of both sports, my first choice would be to leave the painted lines on the tennis courts and even add painted lines to the second court, making 4 courts, but to supply the nets.
We've got the 3-minute time has expired.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, Kathy Pearson.
Kathy Pearson. My address is 5196 East Quarter Path Drive, Boise, Idaho 83716. I have lived in East Boise over 25 years. I started on Lewis Street and then I moved out to Harris Ranch area. I've been playing pickleball for about 5 years, and I actually know most of these people in here, but they don't recognize me without a hat on and shorts. And it's really surprising to me that Boise, being such a active and they try to promote recreation, that my side of town doesn't have any designated pickleball courts. So I totally support Boise Park's proposal to convert the 2 tennis courts to 6 pickleball courts. And once those pickleball courts are complete, I invite those who oppose to come on out and play, grab your friends and family and come on out and play, because you're going to love it. Thank you.
Thank you. And Joe Pearson.
My name is Joe Pearson. I too lived out in Southeast Boise for 25 years.
Can you state your address?
And it's 5196 East Quarter Path Drive in Harris Ranch.
Thank you.
The point I'd like to make is that Boise doesn't have enough pickleball courts. And by far, I mean by a big amount, because I've traveled a lot of places. I've gone to Bend, Oregon. I've gone down to St. George. I've gone to Salt Lake City. And I'm jealous of the courts they have. They have way more courts. They have bigger complexes. You know, and even Rupert, Idaho, they just put in 9 pickleball courts. Rupert, Idaho is 40 times smaller than Boise. So if you scale that up to the size of Boise, that's 360 pickleball courts. It's amazing how many pickleball courts they have. You know, Brigham City, Utah, 20,000 people. They have 24 courts, 17 are lighted, 2 have bleachers, and they're set up for championship matches. 20,000 people. Scale that up to the size of Boise. That's like Boise having 264 courts. And Boise has what, 21 courts? Well, in my book, we only have less than half of that, because the courts out at Hobble Creek, everybody I talked to that plays at Hobble Creek, is a great facility. But you know what? It's a half a mile from Meridian, and it's a half a mile from Eagle. So the people that play out at Hobble Creek are a lot of people that play in Eagle and from Eagle and Meridian. So over on our side of town, we definitely need more courts. You know, we could use 60. In the words of Kevin Costner, if you build 60, they will come. Or something like that. So that's what I'd like to say. I'd like 6, but 60 would be better. So, okay. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, George Allen.
My name is George Allen, 750 South Granite Way, Boise, Idaho 83712. So I'm within the half mile. This is my first time testifying in front of any kind of committee. And I'm an avid tennis player, and I'm going to stay even though I want to leave right now. I don't think I knew what I was getting myself into. I wasn't going to testify. I was just going to write something up and send it until last night I was hitting against the board. As I often do around dusk, late in the evening after I eat dinner with my family, I bike over and hit against the board. It's just therapeutic, and especially if the sun is against the hills, it's the most peaceful park. I enjoyed it. And a nice lady walked by, and I don't know if she's here, because if she's not, she got me into something. But she said, you know, you should really testify tomorrow at 4. So here I am. And I thought, you know, I haven't followed it too much, so I quickly got on Nextdoor and read all of the comments and realized usually I see both sides of issues, and I do on this one. And I thought, you know, the only thing I really can offer is my personal perspective. Obviously, I would like to see an opportunity to play some tennis, even if it were one court. I often play on the off hours. And so yesterday I played against a guy that lives on Warm Springs. He biked over, he had a 45-minute break. We played in 96-degree heat, and there was nobody there. But this morning I hit with my wife and my daughter, and the 8 pickleball courts were full and they were receiving lessons. You know, obviously I would like some kind of compromise where there's one court that could be available to me to hit with I've taught my 12-year-old, teaching my 8-year-old, have visions of my family playing. I do play with about 5 people that are in the community there. Most of the time, if those courts were committed to pickleball players and they were taking the courts and there weren't room for me, I could accept that and understand that, and I can go find a court somewhere else. But the problem is I do see both sides of the issue, and I understand that you guys have a much broader perspective than I do. I have a much more informed perspective now from the pickleball community. And when I see the numbers, my wife that gave me this hat that I was talking with a gentleman about, she is from Rupert. We were there last weekend and I saw the 9 beautiful pickleball courts. I would love for the pickleball community to have that. I would love to have one court that I could hit in the off hours at Eagle Rock. And I understand that sometimes that can't happen. And I can understand sometimes compromise is best. And I understand sometimes tough decisions must be made. I would love to have a court that I could hit on with my family and with my local friends on off hours. And I also hope the pickleball community gets all of the courts they need. I have purchased a pickleball set and hit with my family. It works much better with an 8-year-old who wants to try to hit home runs all the time. And I am sure that I would enjoy pickleball greatly. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, Terry Bounds.
My name's Terry Bounds. I live at 6931 East Graybull Drive, Southeast Boise, 83716. I'm out about a mile from the Highway 21 bridge. I'm a resident and taxpayer of Boise, and I support the conversion of the 2 tennis courts to 6 pickleball. I've been playing pickleball in Boise for 5 years and have put thousands of miles on my car driving to and from pickleball courts so that I can play 5 to 6 days a week. As you make your decision, please think about options and access with regards to tennis and pickleball. Pickleball players have very few options, especially with the numbers of local players increasing every year. Tennis players have so much more in terms of available dedicated courts. The numbers are so lopsided in favor of tennis, we're just asking for a bit more fairness from the city. My closest option for dedicated courts is approximately 5 miles from my house at Manitou. Alternatively, I can drive 11 miles to Willow Lane or 16 miles to Hobble Creek in West Boise. Another option is for me to drive to one of the few parks with painted lines and put up my own net that I purchased for $200. I never in my life have seen a tennis player who has been required to travel with their own net and then set it up and take it down after they play. Pickleball players have access to a total of 22 dedicated courts in Boise. 12 of those are at Hobble Creek in West Boise, a 16-mile and 35-minute one-way drive for me. If Eagle Rock converts these 2 tennis courts to 6 pickleball courts, any tennis player displaced there still has tremendous access to courts. According to Parks and Rec, there is no option on the books for any other dedicated pickleball courts in Boise. So this is it for us. This is our only chance to get a small number of additional dedicated courts so that the crowds of players can be dispersed a bit and wait times can be reduced. We appreciate your consideration of this conversion project. We need it, and we thank you for your time.
Thank you. Bill Mcgrath.
Hello, everyone. My name is Bill Mcgrath. I live at 2361 East Gloucester Place, Boise, 83706. For 45 years, I've been a tennis pro. I've run facilities in 3 different states. I recently had a milestone. I retired at 65, but I recently had a milestone. I reached 70. And at that point, my knees were shot. Couldn't play tennis. Still teach tennis, which I do. Now I'm relegated to pickleball. I don't say that in a bad way. It's a great sport. I'm up here today to tell you that we need a dedicated facility. 6 courts would be great. The facility over at Manitou just doesn't fly. It's poorly conceived and needs improvement. Now you could do that over there. You could put in 6 courts. You do have some issues with the neighbors nearby. Or you could build your own. I winter in San Diego in the winter months. And they recently spent $3.5 million in Carlsbad to build a facility for pickleball. 6 courts, $3.5 million. They screwed it up. They put on the ends of the courts, they put bleachers to sit in that fold down. Well, no one's going to sit there. You get hit by a pickleball, they have bleachers to the side. Courts are overused. It's a problem everywhere. I think the city of Boise Rec Department has an opportunity here to make a tremendous statement. Again, I'm trying to be impartial. I just know that it needs to be done somewhere on the east side. This is a multi-generational sport. Both my adult children play it. In fact, I'm teaching out in Surprise Valley, children, adults, both tennis, pickleball. But when you take a 60 by 120 foot court, which is a tennis court, and you put pickleball lines on it, and you have one pickleball, what happens is when the pickleball has been hit, you have to walk 60 feet to pick it up. So it's a slow game. So it's better to have a dedicated facility. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Jessica Markley.
Hi, it's Jessica Monkley. I live at 7623 West Snowy Drive in Boise, 83709. And I can just say thank you for listening to all of us. We really appreciate your time and consideration. And I can just echo what everyone else says. I am pretty new to pickleball. I've been sucked into it by my father, who you will listen to, and he will be very excited. And I just want to say I've also started to teach to my son when he's willing to listen, which isn't very often, but it is generational and it is growing. And there is definitely a need for more courts. I can say when I have gone to other locations that have tennis courts, I don't typically see tennis players. Obviously, I'm not there 24/7, so I can't say if there are tennis players there sometimes. But when I have gone, and I only play once or twice a week if I'm lucky, because I'm still working. I'm of the younger pickleball population. And even just those few times that I'm there, I do not see them being utilized by tennis players. So I'm very much in advocacy for changing to these 6 courts, and I look forward to using them.
Thank you. This one's a tough one for me. I'm going to go with the address 1632 Loggers Pond Place. All right.
My name is Drusilla Dunshee at 1632 South Loggers Pond Place, 83706 in Boise. I am new to pickleball. I've probably been playing for maybe 2 years. Prior to that, I played racquetball for 12 years, and before that, tennis. And I have to say that pickleball is the most fun. We all know what a growing sport it is. We all know, maybe painfully, how fast our own city is growing. There is such a need in Southeast Boise for pickleball courts. I lost my train of thought. This is an important time and opportunity to build 6 dedicated courts in Southeast Boise at the Eagle Rock Park, which my understanding is not surrounded by homes. I know for certainty that it's not going to take long before there's going to be an even greater demand in Southeast Boise for dedicated courts. All you have to do is look at Harris Ranch and see the phenomenal growth out there to know that there is going to be more demand for these courts. Last week, I played at Manitou and I waited 18 minutes, which apparently isn't that long to wait. And I would be interested in knowing whether or not a tennis player ever has to wait 18 minutes to get on a court. In conclusion, I would just like to say, I think it's time to embrace the growth of pickleball here in this city and to create the new courts that are in demand today and that are certainly going to be more in demand in the future. And I want to thank you for letting us all speak before you today and listen to our collective voices. Thank you.
Thank you. Kathy Weimer.
Hello, good evening. My name is Kathy Weimer. My address is 2251 East Warm Springs Avenue in Boise, 83712. I'm a neighbor that lives right there by Eagle Park. Okay, and I think that we need to do some compromising. I think that's what this society is all about, is compromise and doing just a small, tiny bit of equalization. Okay, we're talking about right now 4 dedicated courts from 36th Street all the way east, all the way south, all the way north. To me, that's about 10 miles by 10 miles, well, maybe something close to that. But we need that. We need it in the neighborhood, okay? Many of us don't have 18 minutes, 18 months, 18 days to sit there and wait for our next game. Okay, so this is something that's long overdue and well needed. And really, it's just the tip of the iceberg. You guys have heard, it's such a growing sport. We need not just 6 dedicated courts, we need at least 60 dedicated courts. Okay, you know, many have talked about the socialization, the mental health, the physical health. Behind me, these are my brothers and sisters. Okay, I moved here 3 years ago. I don't know anybody. I don't have any friends. I don't have any family here. These are my brothers and sisters here. Okay, I need them. I need them for the socialization, the emotional health, and for the physical exercise. They'll keep us all out of the hospitals. And it's not just a sport for the elderly. I play with people from 9 to 90. And let me tell you, those 9-year-olds kick my butts too, as do the 90-year-olds. They'll kick my butts too. I know you're not 90, but. Okay, we need it, okay? There's not homes right smack next to it. I live in the neighborhood, okay? We really need this. It's just the tip of the iceberg. It's just a small thing we can do to start it in the right direction. And I thank you all for your time. And please, please, I ask that you try to seek democracy and something a little more equitable to help relieve the growing pains of the fastest growing sport in America. Thank you.
Thank you. It's Kay Semink?
My name is Kay Semink. I live at 1064 East Crowell, about a half a mile from Eagle Rock Park. I have a whole letter. It says everything that everyone else has been saying. I support the conversion of these courts to 6 dedicated courts, but I feel bad that we're taking away the tennis courts. Why are we in that position? After hearing about some of these amazing courts in these other tiny little towns, it's like we really need to look to the future. And I know right now we need the courts, and I do support them, and I want it to happen. But I think we need to look at the bigger picture somehow and figure out how we can get more courts without taking from an existing park, which is very treasured and loved. And I empathize with that completely. So I don't think I'm going to read this whole letter because it basically is stating what everyone else has stated. Pickleball is fantastic, so welcoming. This is my community. I'm, new to the area as well, but I've been playing for about 5 years. I grew up playing tennis, love tennis as well. This should not be about tennis versus pickleball. And unfortunately, I think the decision we have to remove the emotion and just make the decision based on the numbers, which speak for themselves, as you have heard. So I thank you for your consideration. And it's going to be a tough decision, I realize that, but thank you for your time. And thank you everyone else for speaking today.
Thank you. Vic Semink?
Anybody else getting freaked out by Big Brother? I am. I don't know about you guys. Hey, my name is Victor Semank. I live at 1064 East Crowell Street, just next to her. And it's only about a half mile. Also, my kids, 2 families live in the same East End part or in East End area. So we are in the East End. I spent a lot of time preparing this, so you're going to have to listen to it, I guess. Like my wife. I support the 6 pickleball court option. And here's the reasons why pickleball is really going to be great, I think, even for the East End. I know people are concerned, and I understand that it's hard to lose your court if you had a tennis court, and I would be in the same situation they would be in. But pickleball is easy to learn. East End residents can play competitive fun games the first time they play. Their skills will grow, and so will the fun quickly. It's welcoming. You can go to a tennis court. You can't go to a tennis court and just join a game. You can at pickleball. All you have to do is show up. And so it doesn't matter. It means that local residents, the East End residents, can just stop in and be able to play almost any time. Pickleball players will help you learn. If you want to learn how to play, all you have to do is show up with a good attitude. These folks are all more than willing to help you. You know, we've loaned rackets to people, you name it. And not just me or us, all folks all over the play pickleball. It's accessible for all. We got people with limited mobility. You see us all limping up and crawling up. We can all use it. We can all play. There's no need to have a group. You don't have to find a partner to schedule a pickleball game like you may for a tennis game. Residents can just go to the courts and they'll likely be able to find a game. It's family friendly because it's easy to learn. So it's got an easy learning curve. Family members of all ages can have fun together. In fact, the average age of pickleball players continues to drop. Younger age players are now the fastest growing group. And it sounds like they're teaching them over there right now. It's a great game for kids. We've got 2 elementary schools in the neighborhood. Having a sport in the park that's easy to learn and fun to play is a great addition for our neighborhood kids. We get more bang for our buck in the neighborhood. We can have 6 courts with 4 people playing in the same space, with 4 people playing in each ones, or you can have the 2 tennis courts where usually it's 2 people that are playing. That's a 6 times more growth. Tennis players, unfortunately, they have to move and give up something, but they do still have nearby options. There's 6 courts at Fort Boise. Those courts are actually closer to a large percentage of the East End residents. If you come driving off of Shaw Mountain Road, those are actually closer than this park. In the Flats area, that's actually pretty much the same. And at Roosevelt School, that's pretty much where it divides half and half. There's room for advancement. Obviously, entry level is easy, but you can take time to master the skill. So it's a lifetime sport. And we're already behind the curve at Boise. We would be lucky in the East End to actually have this facility in our area where we can all play. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Allison Gableman.
Hello, my name is Allison Gableman, and I live on 1414 East Washington Street, Boise, Idaho, 83712. And I'm speaking on behalf of myself. I'm a college athlete who competes in tennis, and a huge factor in this achievement is our city's public courts, including Eagle Rock Park, especially Eagle Rock Park. I have been playing tennis at Eagle Rock since I was a very young child with my family and friends for countless hours, and this is one of the main factors behind my tennis development. My family was not able to afford a club membership, so I was lucky to have courts near my house that are accessible by walking or biking. To this day, I still go to Eagle Rock Park multiple times a week, either with family or friends, to play against the hitting wall. I am an employee of the City Parks and Rec, and I teach tennis lessons. Every single one of my classes so far this summer has been full to the maximum amount, some with waiting lists as high as 16 kids. I get approached by many parents after the session is over asking me what I recommend for their child to continue tennis lessons. City lessons are filled up for the rest of the summer. I would recommend Boise Racket and Swim Club, but their wait list is overflowing. Eagle Tennis Club also has a wait list plus the distance factor. Crane Creek and Hillcrest are also country clubs that I would not recommend to the general public because of the high cost. What is left? The city courts. Kids need to have available places to play tennis and practice with friends and family. Tennis is a sport that requires a lot of practice, and for children in this community, options like Eagle Rock Park are vital for the development of tennis. I am lucky that Eagle Rock Park is so close to my house and that it was able to carry me into my college career of playing tennis. I hope that other kids in my neighborhood will continue to have this same opportunity. The tennis community at Eagle Rock Park is very disappointed in this proposal. I understand that there is a need for pickleball courts, but the truth is that there is a need for way more pickleball courts than just 2 or even 6. Converting Eagle Rock Park courts is a Band-Aid approach. There needs to be a place where people can play pickleball and have many available courts, and it needs to be in a place that isn't subtracting from somewhere that already has a community built. Eagle Rock Park is extremely valuable to the neighbors in the surrounding area. Adding pickleball courts will change the dynamic of the park. We, speaking from the East End neighborhood, do not want cars lined up along the road leading to the park. We do not want the loud noise of pickleball rackets in our quiet neighborhood. We do not want our peaceful neighborhood park to be disrupted. We, speaking from the tennis community of Boise, do not support the subtraction of tennis courts for pickleball. We believe that we should not be pinned against pickleball players or other sports, but instead there should be opportunity for all. We believe that the city of Boise needs to create pickleball courts elsewhere, whereas not subtracting from community from other individuals in their sport.
That's
Thank
3
you.
minutes. Thank you. Julie Wiley.
Hi, my name is Julie Wiley. My address is 4991 Bitterbrush Drive, Boise 83703. I grew up in Tacoma, Washington, inner city Tacoma, Washington during the 60s and 70s. We were poor. My mom left and my dad had a difficult time functioning. It was because of Tacoma school districts, my teachers, my coaches that lifted all of us up. We were, in my elementary school, I was the minority, 5% white, 95% Black. All of us struggled together. And this is during civil rights. If any of you remember that time, it was a lot of pain and anger, racial division. But when I got to go back to my local junior high, we desegregated and bused to the minority schools. When we went back to my local junior high, there was still a lot of minority, but it was mostly white. And I knew when we moved there, that the rules would be in my favor and not with my other friends, even though we were both poor, even though we both came from hard times. Right now, look around here. We're all pretty much privileged here. I was lucky. I had great teachers. I got involved in sports, and those coaches made me feel like I was worth something. They gave me value. They gave us all value, no matter what color we were. Then I got the Pell Grant, and I got to go to Western Washington University, where I got a degree in psychology. And some of my friends got to go with me, and we all got degrees. I married that other psych major back there 41 years ago. We both got masters in counseling, him in school counseling, me in mental health counseling. My specialty was working with women with sexual assault. And then I did guidance counseling. Our whole lives have been spent lifting other people up, those less fortunate than ourselves. We were lucky. I was lucky. Those programs, those social programs, those teachers, those coaches changed my life. Every day of my life, that's what gets me up in the morning. How can I reflect back people's greatness? Because I didn't feel great growing up, but I figured it out. I figured out that I have the same amount of value as everyone else in this room and all the people that can't be here because they're trying to figure out how to pay their rents, how they are trying to even buy food. My friend Carol back there, she works at the food bank every Thursday and fills boxes full of food so that people can eat, because they can't afford to pay for their rent and have food. The parks represent all of us. You've heard about my friends, my new family, my pickleball family here. They are here. They have made me feel welcome. They've taught me pickleball. They've encouraged me. I've encouraged them. We've cried together. We've laughed together. That's community. Pickleball does change people's lives. And I love doing it, but more so, I have a vision that we can use it to raise young gals up in our community. Gals that grew up in difficult situations like me. I know we're running out of time. I know, but that's my vision.
We hit our 3 minutes.
Sorry. But that's my vision. And that's what I hope. Eagle Rock
Six, I
Thank
know,
you. I
6
appreciate
more
it.
courts is good, but
No.
it's just a start.
Thank you. Okay, Henry Pfeiffer.
My name is Henry Pfeiffer, 2487 Table Rock Road, Boise, Idaho. Everything's pretty much been said. Everything I was going to mention has been said. We do have a speaker to represent the club. He'll be up here and probably confirm some things for you. The thing that surprises me is that we need to meet like this and have a meeting like this when everything is so obvious. Everything seems to be obvious to the pickleball community, the tennis community, the commissioners, that we don't have enough pickleball courts. And to continue to increase the interest in the sport, because when you go down to Manitou and you have to sit for anywhere from 10, 15 minutes to 40, 45 minutes to play a game, you lose a little interest. I mean, I was a racquetball player, a handball player, a tennis player. Now I'm a pickleball player. I've never experienced this kind of a situation. You never had to wait in any of those other sports. And that's why I say it's obvious to me that something has to happen, something has to be done. So I definitely support changing a court that now could be used for pickleball and increase the availability when it's really not taking away from anything in the area. It's a situation where I drive from Table Rock down past several tennis courts every day. And the majority of the time, there's no one playing on those courts. They're empty. So I would really encourage the commission to consider changing this court, this Eagle Rock, to 6 pickleball courts. But that's not going to be the answer. That's just kind of a Band-Aid for the problem. We need to do that, and then we need to think about the future and think about the growth of this sport and what needs to be done to accommodate these younger people that are coming up and want to play and aren't going to want to sit around and wait an hour to play the game. So I would certainly encourage you as a commission to support this proposal of changing these courts to 6, because the tennis players have, as you've already heard, they have all kinds of opportunity in the neighborhood at other locations within just some of them within a few blocks.
That's the time on it. Thank you. Thank you. All right, Donna Brogdon. Bogdan.
I am Donna Bogdan. I live at 715 West Elwood Drive. That's over near Ivy Park, 06. Okay, 06. I drive by Ivy Wild Park several times a day, and I always marvel that those courts, your tennis courts, are empty. And that goes for the many, many other tennis courts around town. I've got nothing against tennis players. I was a tennis player. I can't do it anymore. I'm one of the converts to pickleball. I was, in my former lifetime, I was a mental health professional specializing in therapeutic recreation. I studied recreation. And of all the sports I have played, I have never played a more beneficial socially game than pickleball. When I used to play tennis, okay, you'd get a friend, be 2 of you, you go down and play tennis, but there's never this group camaraderie and this acceptance of people, no matter what their disability, no matter what their age, coming together. It's just amazing. And I think that, you know, we've talked a lot about the mental health benefits. I'd like to talk about the addictive benefits of pickleball. Probably because of I think this camaraderie, the ease of learning the sport, and the just plain fun of pickleball. I'd sure like to see us seniors addicted to a sport rather than to pills or early retirement in a assisted living facility. I wish we could think of more things like this. And folks, pickleball's here to say it's not like it's not like the hula hoop or some of the other fads that we've all seen, you know, come and gone in our lifetime. And as far as noise, I live close enough to Ivywild Park. I hear the swimming pool. I hear the, you know, people playing softball. And when you live near a park, that's just the way it is. And parking, I've kind of looked at the parking over there. There seems to be a lot of vacant fields. So I don't really think those are valid complaints. But anyway, I hope that you will consider converting those courts to 6 pickleball courts. I think we'll get the best bang for our buck as a city and go a long way into providing benefits for people of all ages. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I've got a Ms. Day on Sandstone Court.
Hi, I'm Patricia Day. I live at 865 West Sandstone Lane, 83702. And before I tell you why I think we should go to the 6th court or at Eagle Rock, I just want to thank you. I've lived in many cities throughout the United States, and nothing gives me much more pleasure than having my guests come to visit me at my home and go to the parks and see what you all have accomplished here. It's just unbelievable. I feel like I died and went to heaven. I've only been here 6 years, and because of pickleball, I've just made numerous friends, and I just really cherish those. As a very senior citizen, I just thank you, thank them for introducing me to the sport. And it was Parks and Rec that got me involved at Fort Boise. Yes, I agree that we should have the 6 courts. We need them. It's equitable. And especially as a very senior citizen, the mental health that it gives me a shot of endorphins every time I'm out there playing, seeing my friends, visiting, and just having fun. And the best part, older people than me are playing, and it's just fun. And then the young people as well. I love it, and I just thank you for your time. Thank you for all you're doing for our wonderful city. You make me proud. Amen.
Thank you. Okay, Thomas Snuggs.
I'm Thomas Snuggs. I live at 4660 South Chugwater Way. I made all these little bullet points to talk about, but of course, everybody's already covered every single one. Started playing pickleball about 3 years ago, and same as the way I've said, it's like I made friends. It's social, and it's not just pickleball friends. The friendship extended beyond pickleball, you know, dinners, all that kind of stuff. I vote for the 6 pickleball courts. I think from a park utilization perspective, you can't get more for your money. If you put in the 6 pickleball courts, they'll be used constantly. I am sad about the pitting tennis against pickleball, but this is the option we've been given by the city for currently. So 6 pickleballs is my vote. That's pretty much it. Everybody else has covered everything else. I mean, I don't know what more people can say. You're going to keep hearing the same thing over and over. I will say I was at Hobble Creek yesterday morning, 12 courts, beautiful facility. Courts were full, 48 people, 2 tennis courts, 4 people, all morning, 8 to 12. It's that way everywhere. We need the pickleball courts. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Leanne Hume.
Hello, my name's Leanne Hume. I live at 422 Bacon Drive, Boise, Idaho 83712. I'm glad to know this is a loving and gentle group because I have a little bit of a different philosophy and a couple of things to offer that might be a little bit unique. First of all, I think someone said it very well that the question is not, is pickleball courts needed? That's clear. And it's clear that it's an amazing sport. My father-in-law is avid player as well. I think that it's needed for sure. The question in my mind, which I think we need to go back to is this the right place for that to happen? Someone mentioned there's 127 tennis courts and only 19 pickleball, and that should change. But can we look again, and maybe it's already been done, at the 100 and not good at math more that have not been converted yet? And I think that's the big question here. I've owned my lot on Bacon Drive, which backs up right to the park and all the trails for 25 years. And we already have kind of a bandshell effect there. People that live there know that. I can hear the walkie-talkies at the women's facility, which is almost to the bishop's house. I can hear living on a prayer every time there's a wedding at the bishop's house. And it ends abruptly at 10, which is great. All the concerts at Botanical, we open our windows. We love it. We hear kids, we hear dogs, we hear everything back there. And to add this again to, something that we have to hear till 9 o'clock at night, if not later in the summer, people that don't quit is just kind of the straw that breaks the camel's back. I'm not passionate about it. I think these people absolutely have a passion for this. They should have more courts. I don't think this is the place for them. Down closer to the bishop's house, there's a very long grassy portion there. Building new courts down at the very end with landscaping around it seems like it'd be a very good option. It's not an immediate option, but that would be away from homes. The parking is really difficult. We are already going to experience a narrowing of Bacon Drive. It's in the works. They're going to expand our sidewalks. Hardly anybody has garages there. So everybody parks on the street. People will have to park on the street in order to get to those courts, which will come right by my house, which is fine. One other thing, I'm a commercial real estate broker and I do retail with Commissioner Raver, and there are tons of people wanting to do indoor pickleball courts. Nobody would know that, but there is a lot of deals in place right now that are going to fill this demand. Great for parks. I think parks should still do it on other courts, not this one, but there is going to be pickleball coming. I promise you that. They're going to make these deals. It's going to be here. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, Jean Colomeni.
My name is Jean Calameni. I live at 2159 South Myers Place. And I started playing pickleball in 2015. And that was after a major operation and a long rehab. And I play pickleball at least 4 days a week. And I started out at Fort Boise. Thank goodness they had a nice indoor facility then, and learned how to play, and then heard about Manitou and went out there. And it's been a wonderful experience. But I want to say that I remember about a year and a half ago, Willow Lane had to shut down for about a week or so, or 2 weeks, for some adaptations. And our wait times at Manitou went from 15 minutes to 45 minutes because all the Willow Lane pickleball players came over to Manitou to play. That's an impact that really only the pickleball players face if one court or one facility goes down. It's been a wonderful sport. It continues to be so. And I have met a lot of people here and finally have learned some last names. So I do support fully the 6 dedicated courts because we do need them. Thank you.
Thank you. Is it Ralph Better.
Ralph Butler and 2319 Irene. We live right across the street from Elm Grove Park. And we moved here from Denver in '86 when more people were moving out of Boise than moving in. And I thought this is overstating it, but I thought I'd died and gone to heaven. Somebody else had used that word, because we had tennis courts across the street. We had a swimming pool several blocks away at Lowell. We had skiing at Bogus. And I was a school teacher. I didn't have much money. And I was in heaven. Things have deteriorated a bit. Our pool is closed. Hopefully it's reopening in a couple of years. Our tennis court across the street is in dire straits. It's a danger to play on almost, but we play on it every day. The great thing about our neighborhood and the neighborhood of the Gablemans, our friends, is that you have these courts available to go play. If we build pickleball courts, hope to God that they wouldn't build them in Elm Grove Park, and take our tennis courts away. But if they did that at the place, it was Rock Creek, I think it would be a mistake, because the people who live there would have to get in their cars to go drive to the nearest courts, whereas now they can ride their bikes, and that's so nice, and it's fantastic. And I grew up playing tennis. I also played squash. I played a little bit of court tennis. It's a platform tennis, which is very much like pickleball. I played a bit of pickleball. I played with Clancy Shields one time pickleball, and it's a good sport. It's a terrific sport as a lead-up sport to tennis. If a kid wanted to learn tennis, starting pickleball would be great. Pickleball is a great sport, but I just think that you should leave the courts and the facilities we have where they are, and build new pickleball courts. The lady who spoke before said there's an area down from the courts that could be used. So keep the facilities we have. They're being used. They're wonderful, and thank you.
Thank you. All right, Mark Berger. I think even I can get that one right. Mark Berger, your handwriting's pretty good, at 72 Ridgeline Road. No, that's okay. Move on to Marianne Batten.
Marianne Batten, 7105 East Highland Valley Road, Boise 83716. I also have prepared a nice speech for you today, but I am going to skip parts of it and try to stick to just some information that it is important, I think, to note, as well as what's already been said. Jean just brought up the fact that Willow Lane did have to close one time for repairs, and both out of the 3 current dedicated pickleball facilities, 2 are actually in not very good shape. Manitou and Willow Lane eventually are both going to need to be resurfaced. So when that finally happens, having additional courts will not only help ease the current crowding, but will be a necessity when the other facilities are being repaired. Currently, Boise Parks and Rec has established a criteria for placement of pickleball courts in relation to location of housing near the facility. Eagle Rock is basically, to my understanding, the only facility that's being considered for conversion, because the courts are located far enough away from houses to be acceptable. So a compromise would be nice on the tennis and pickleball courts. But the fact is we obviously don't have enough courts. And yes, it may be a Band-Aid, but at the present time, it's really the only economically feasible Band-Aid that there is. So please support the conversion of the 2 tennis courts to 6 pickleball courts. Thank you.
Thank you. Patricia Thompson.
Patricia Thompson, 2025 East Warm Springs Avenue. I live quite close to the park. And I advocate for option 1. I think it's really crummy that the city and Boise City Rec has pitted 2 equally important sports against each other, which I feel like all this fuss is about. I think if that park provides for the use of both of these sports, which I think is quite fair. I am concerned about the parking situation. There are only 12 legal parking spots at that park currently, one being a handicap spot. Now, if you convert them to 3 courts, that's equal to the possibility of 24 players with the possibility of 24 cars. The parking lot doesn't fill it. So that means people will have to be parking illegally. So even though I advocate for choice 1, you're going to have to be able to provide legal parking, not just for the possibility of 24 pickleball players, but also for the other people that use that park. When I went by this morning, there was a daycare or something with a bunch of kids there in that little cove. There were moms with their kids in the playground. So where are they going to park? And right now you can only provide for half of the pickleball thing. And I think, and when you talk about the budget, people say, oh yes, this will be a Band-Aid, but it's economically. Well, how much does it cost to build parking to facilitate not just the possibility of 24 different cars just for pickleball, but all the people that go there for hiking, for the moms and dads with their kids at the park, or for also people that just want to go there. How are you going to, that's going to cost a lot of money. So I think, yes, city definitely needs more pickleball courts, but I think you need to look at the long range. And this neighborhood park, and that's what it is a neighborhood park. You need to look in the future and you need to find a large enough area where you cannot just provide for pickleball players who sorely need this, but you also need to provide for the general public. And this parking alone does not provide for everything if you put those 3 pickleball courts in. And right now, we have a little bit of the best of the world because both tennis and pickleball players can play there right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Jan Lake.
Hi, my name is Jan Lake. I live at 303 North Atlantic Street, Boise, Idaho, 83706. I mirror what the people have said. I was a tennis player. I was the president of Boise Racket and Swim Club. I know what it's like, but I never saw tennis face what pickleball has faced. As they say, it takes forever to get on a court. And that's from people that are retired. You can imagine kids and mothers with kids and stuff trying to go play on courts. I think a bigger question for me is, I'm a native. I grew up here. I was born here. I remember when Ann Morrison Park was horses. I remember when Orchard was the country. Now we look at Boise and where are people coming from? California, Oregon, Utah, Arizona. I was surprised when I got into pickleball about 5 years ago and people go, who moved here? I've been playing this for 20 years. I'm like, what? 20 years? When we've had such a short time here, all that influx of population are going to be looking for courts. They're looking for courts now. And those kids have played pickleball. The older people have played pickleball. So I think it's a situation that is going to be overwhelming. So just in closing, I'm voting for the 6 pickleball dedicated courts over at Eagle Rock. And I so appreciate, I don't envy you your jobs. You know, I applaud all of you. Thank you so much for listening to us. It's not an easy job and trying to say, well, just find another place. Yeah, find some land. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Frank Matern, is it? Mattern?
Good afternoon, city commissioners and distinguished guests. My name is Frank Mattern and I'm a 40-year resident of Boise. I currently live on 2006 East Mortimer Drive, Boise, Idaho, 83712. I am an East Ender and I'm also an avid pickleball player. I took up the sport 4 years ago and thoroughly enjoy the physical and social sides to the sport. I'm here today to ask for your support in converting 2 tennis courts at Eagle Rock into 6 dedicated pickleball courts to allow for East Enders like me to have a closer location to enjoy the sport. My education and job history are in the area of finance, so I tend to make decisions based on cost-benefit analysis. When I look at the decision you are going to make, I break it down into a couple of components with some basic numbers. 1, there are 2 tennis courts. Tennis players generally play singles, which means that on average, 4 players would use those 2 existing courts in an hour. 2, if there are 6 dedicated pickleball courts at Eagle Rock, the utilization numbers increase to 24. They have 6 courts with a maximum of 4 players per court. The majority of pickleball matches are in a doubles format. So your number of players per hour for the same amount of space has increased from 4 to 24, which this is an increase of 600%. We know that the city has only a finite amount of dollars and resources that they can spend on the growing demand for the sport of pickleball. Pickleball is the fastest growing sport nationally and within the Treasure Valley. To get the biggest bang for our city budget dollars, I believe the conversion to 6 pickleball courts would accomplish 2 goals. 1, to allow East Enders to have a dedicated set of courts to meet the growing demands of the sport. These courts will shorten commute times for East Enders and to relieve plane congestion at Manitou. 2, taking an existing facility and increasing the utilization to meet the growing player demands from a sport that will only get larger as our city continues to grow, thereby benefiting more Boise residents. I believe there is a need for more dedicated pickleball courts in Boise, as we've heard tonight multiple times. I assume and trust you have seen or experienced the growing pains of the sport as placed on Boise City resources already. In conclusion, the conversion of the tennis courts at Eagle Rock Park will result in the biggest bang for the city's budget bucks and help to position the city for the growing demand of this sport. Thank you for your attention and consideration.
Thank you. Robin Cogan.
Hi, I'm Robin Cogan. I live at 2563 East Burgesson Street in Boise, 83706. And I've been playing pickleball for probably 2 or 3 years now. And the challenge of finding a court has become really difficult, especially in the summer. It's like I have a job. I'm out the door at 7:30 in the morning to get over there to Louder Park, to put my chair there and get a court for my friends, who are coming. Generally, it's 12 people trying to play on 1 or 2 courts. We're waiting. So I am in support of the 6 designated pickleball courts. And I really hope that can happen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, may I ask a question?
Sure.
Was your name Robin? Yeah. Hi, Robin. Can I just ask you a quick question? Sure. I'm wondering, excuse me.
Okay. Would you like us to wait or, okay. We'll defer the question.
Okay.
Okay, Donna Carlson.
Hi, my name is Donna Carlson. I live at 3084 South Millbrook Way, Boise 83716. Speaking for myself and my husband, who is on your list but had to leave to go fight for education. There are so many things to say about why Eagle Rock Park should have 6 dedicated pickleball courts that I could have written out 10 different 3-minute talks, but let me hit 7 fast points about why this conversion should take place. 1, I dare say that every city in America that has one person who has played pickleball is now having to consider how to deal with the growth of that sport. Change of use for public facilities is a necessary task demanded of cities to meet new needs as the needs develop. 2, the friendships this sport has personally brought me is a story that has been told by many of us. I moved to Idaho Falls after 27 years, grandkids, enough said, and had an instant community. The pickleball drop-in format fosters connectivity, and that should matter to all of us. 3, the greater good for a larger number of taxpayers is to convert to 6 pickleball courts. We are respectful citizens requesting a little piece of the pie, and even that doesn't begin to be an equitable solution when you look at the number of players and courts in both sports. 4, implementing 6 courts at Eagle Rock Park is an urgent need for a pickleball community that is highly underserved, evidenced by long lines at Manitou and people leaving or not coming at all based upon those wait times. I don't think tennis courts have this issue. I would hope we would not rob people of the opportunity for social and physical engagement. 5, based upon input from Boise Parks and Rec, Eagle Rock Park has been determined as a suitable location for this 6-court conversion. I could be more sympathetic about tennis players currently living closer to Eagle Rock Park, having to drive 2 to 3 miles for a court if I didn't know so many people traveling all over the city for a place to play pickleball. I know people get used to amenities they've had, but the needs have changed and the usage needs to change. People of all ages will enjoy the pickleball courts at Eagle Rock Park immensely and won't have to carry their own nets to do so, as many of us do. It's swapping one sport for another in a very fair manner, given the citywide scarcity of pickleball courts. 6, I live right off the Greenbelt and bike 15 minutes to Eagle Rock Park. There are many of us who will ride bikes to these courts, greatly enlarging the number of people who can access courts without driving, even if we don't live off Old Penitentiary Road. 7th and finally, when I look at this for a fair and equitable solution, it seems inconceivable to do anything but convert this space to 6 courts. I've never been to City Hall. I see the sign for the greatest good. In considering the greatest good for the largest number of taxpayers, I implore you to vote in favor of this solution as the only location, possibly for many years, to serve our constantly growing pickleball community. Thank you for your time very much.
Thank you. Ruth Fritz.
My name is Ruth Fritz, and I live at 1414 East Washington Street, 83712. My name, I already said that. I had the good fortune of growing up in Boise near a city park. I've lived in the East End for nearly 30 years. I'm but 1 block from the gravel path that leads to Chief Eagle Eye Reserve and the adjacent Eagle Rock Park, and walk from there almost daily. Like the many families with young children who live all around me, I've raised my children with a safe and easily accessed park right in my neighborhood. I spent countless hours with them on these tennis courts. They both play college tennis and teach tennis for the city. Public neighborhood courts primarily facilitated this journey for them, not a private club. Board members and staff, I appreciate the opportunity to share my perspective with you as someone who uses the park's tennis courts, participates in USTA League tennis, and has witnessed the benefits of young people playing tennis for their school teams. I also play pickleball, something I took up when the pandemic hit and BSU halted use of their indoor tennis courts. I ask you to take a moment and remember the history of our parks and of the East End. Let's remember the efforts of our forefathers, or rather our foremothers. Years ago, Barbara Chandler was instrumental in facilitating the development of public tennis courts throughout the city with the goal of access for all and creating opportunity for our youth. Her legacy should not be cast aside by eliminating tennis from the mix at neighborhood parks. I ask you to think of another foremother who lives near me, Betty Foster. Betty was instrumental in rallying East End neighbors in the 90s around the cause of preserving this very special area that is the reserve and the adjacent park. The housing development built on Native American burial ground would have stretched more extensively had neighbors not objected. This reserve and park is very unique to the Boise Park collection. Users often comment on the serenity they enjoy there. It's a migratory bird path, a corridor for the deer traveling to the river. Trail users know this gem of an area. Let's honor all the effort put forth by Betty Foster and others to preserve this historically significant and sacred ground and incorporate use that reflects that distinction. Turning our 2 tennis courts into a pickleball-only 6-court complex will change the experience for all current park users. The board and staff knows noise is a factor with 6 courts or 24 players in action. You have fielded complaints from residents near Manitou and Willow Lane, and mitigation efforts like fabric fence covering have failed. At River Run off Park Center, only a quiet ball is allowed due to noise complaints from just 1 court. Some our parking lots smaller than Manitou. I
You've
encourage
got-
you to
that's
maintain
the-
the tennis courts. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, Kathleen McRoberts.
Commissioners, President, Director Holloway. My name is Kathleen McRoberts. I live at 2008 East Lamar Court in Warm Springs Estates. I am a neighbor. I can walk to the park and have been doing so for 20 years. I am a tennis player, a former collegiate tennis player as well. I also occasionally play pickleball. I have two of my 3 kids play high school tennis and middle school tennis. As Director Holloway stated, this park needs to balance all users. Balancing all users means not just pickleball, not just tennis, but the playground, the trail, and the big grassy area that we use for soccer. It seems today that we are prioritizing pickleball and only talking about pickleball and tennis. The majority of pickleball players will drive to these courts. Converting 6 or making 6 pickleball courts means AM peak times will have a minimum of 24 cars and probably with all the paddles on the court, 30. Currently, we know we have 11 parking spots, 1 handicap spot. We've talked about using the state lab for overflow. I'm assuming the state has given their approval to use those spots. Another point of discussion for you at your meeting. Other places to park could be Table Rock Trailhead, but I think the city has a duty to provide safe access to these pickleball courts. Walking a quarter mile across a uneven grass field with bad knees and bad backs seems like it might be a liability for the city. I'm probably a little bit unique in this because I haven't heard anyone say they actually prefer the hybrid model, but I actually do. I will use those pickleball courts and I do use the tennis courts. But I will say that saying that tennis ball players can just drive wherever, the majority of tennis players that are using those courts are our youth. My 13-year-old daughter cannot hop in the car and drive to Fort Boise. She's reliant on me after work to drive her somewhere. So again, commissioners, director, president, I urge you to consider and balance all the uses of this park, which include our youth, which doesn't have a voice here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Wendy, is it Blauvelt?
Nobody calls me that. Hi there, Wendy Blauvelt, 2040 South Pond Street, Boise, Idaho, 83705. I work downtown close to Eagle Rock Park and have played pickleball there a few times. I grew up here You'll see my name all over the Boise Parks and Rec sports rosters since the 1990s in multiple sports. To me, sports are all about making new friends and being part of a community. So much so that I ran a memorial softball draw tournament here for 10 years. A draw tournament is when players sign up as individuals, and then I literally draw their names out of a hat and put them on teams. The goal was to mix all player levels together to bring them closer to each other and build a community. Guess what? Pickleball is already like that. You come as an individual and you get put on a team, multiple teams, in fact. It's the only sport I know of where there aren't set teams. The young can play with the old, the lower level players can mix in with the upper level players. It is all inclusive. It is a community. It is Boise kind. And never in my lifetime so far have I seen a sport absolutely explode like pickleball has. In fact, I just recently found out my neighbor is taking pickleball lessons from the city of Boise at Eagle Rock Park. She loves it. Her classmates love it. They love it so much they wanted to go play together and practice what they've learned. Because it was central to them all, they went to Philippi Park. Guess what? The court is lined, but there's no net, just like at Eagle Rock. They're beginners. They don't have a net. And my neighbor says, do you know how expensive a net is? She then asked me, are there any courts that already have nets on them? Yes, but only 3, Manitou, Willow Lane, and Hobble Creek. Oh, good, we'll have to try Manitou, she said. And in my mind, I thought, they're going to go to Manitou. They're going to want a court just for them because they're not ready or comfortable mixing in yet, even though they're more than welcome to do that. But there are rules posted by the city of Boise. If players are waiting, you cannot monopolize a court, and players will be waiting. So now we have a group of people who are learning the game, excited to play, and yet can't really practice or play comfortably anywhere unless they go by a net. Softball, you get a field and bases. Tennis, you get a court and a net. Basketball, you get a court and a hoop. Even in soccer, you get goalposts so you can at least get a game going. But pickleball, here are some lines on the pavement. Now go figure it out. Honestly, if we can get 6 dedicated courts at Eagle Rock Park, then maybe we can alleviate at least some of the overcrowding at Manitou, Willow, and Hobble Creek, and maybe we can continue to keep the beginners in this area interested and involved, which could lead to more pickleball lessons, leagues, and tournaments, all of which could generate significant revenue for the city of Boise. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Denise, your last name starts with a J. She had to leave. Okay. I thought you were trying to pronounce your last name. I was like, not going to try it. All right. Okay. Mary Hansen.
My name is Mary Hansen, 5324 South Sweetgrass Way, Boise, Idaho, 83716. Over the last few years, Parks and Rec has done a great job of promoting and encouraging this rapidly growing sport. It has been providing classes, and every year I'm estimating conservatively that at least 50 new players come through those classes. However, courts are not being added fast enough to provide places for these people to play. This spring and summer, Parks and Rec has also started Ladder League. While this is not adding new players, it does impact the availability of courts. Some days, and not just Ladder League days, but players are spending more time waiting to play than actually playing. Parks and Rec has seen the popularity of pickleball and has recognized the need to provide more dedicated courts. My understanding is that Eagle Rock Park has been identified as the only viable option for providing a better balance between the number of players and the number of courts. An investment of less than $10,000 would increase the number of courts by approximately 30%. And the impact on tennis would be minimal with a reduction of about 2%. Converting the 2 tennis courts at Eagle Rock Park to 6 dedicated pickleball courts would be a big help to alleviate the pressure on the available courts and would be greatly appreciated by the pickleball community. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I have Jim and Jennifer Kloss, but we can go both of you sequentially or just one.
Hi, my name is Jim Kloss. I live on 2428 East Parkside Drive, Boise 83712. I live in the East Foothills and support the building of 6 pickleball courts at Eagle Rock Park. I play tennis and pickleball and have many opportunities to play tennis on the east side of Boise. And as you're fully aware, there are only 4 dedicated courts on the east side of Boise. As pickleball continues to grow in popularity, the existing courts will become more crowded and the wait times are going to increase. When I exercise, I want to participate in the sport and not wait on the sidelines for a chance to play. Please build the 6 pickleball courts at Eagle Rock and many more in the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, John, and your last name starts with an O. Oh, I'm sorry. Yep, Jennifer, go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Jennifer Kloss, and I live at 2428 Parkside Drive in Boise, 83712. And I love playing pickleball. I know most of this you've heard this evening already. It has enriched my life immensely, physically, mentally, and socially, to say the least. I am also a longtime tennis player and have played all my life. I have enjoyed the many plentiful courts that are available on the East End. And so I respect that sport for sure. I've pretty much switched more to pickleball and have also experienced the huge increase of pickleball players in the lack of dedicated courts on the East End. I think the sheer number, in my opinion, of the tennis courts in this East End area versus the number of dedicated pickleball courts, just that those numbers alone, I think paint a clear picture of the desperate need that we have for additional dedicated pickleball courts. As far as the parking, I do know that I think that the parking at the penitentiary would be available, and I, as well as maybe some others, would be more than happy to walk the extra little bit across the park to get to the courts. It would be the least I could do. And so for that, I would just want to say that I fully support the 6 dedicated pickleball courts at Eagle Rock City Park. And I appreciate your chance to let me stand here and make my request known. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, John.
My name is John Lukey. Others in my family say Luque, but they're doctors. There we go. I was born in 1947 in Boise. I live at 8009 West Lemp Street. Happened to be across the street from where I grew up. I was gone for 35 years, came back to this great town because it offers so many benefits, like pickleball. All these people are my friends. I know all their faces. Now I know some of their names, but I'll forget tomorrow. But yes, and I played a lot at about 5 or 6 years now. Played at Willow now. Moved over to Willow about 3 years ago. Why? I got more playing time. We had cracks, about 1.5 inch wide cracks. You might be familiar with that scenario. We played with those cracks, and it was a price to pay to get more playing time. And that's what we did until we got closed one weekend. Well, I was first down in line at Morrison Park, saying we could have 100 people down here to open those courts back up. So it was closed over the 3-day weekend and it opened back up on Tuesday. You eliminated one of the courts, maybe with the worst cracks, I doubt it. Now those cracks are fixed about 2 months now. And as ever, the population grows. This morning I played at 8:30. The court behind me, there were 4 young guys under 15 playing, and they were good. They were good. They'd been playing a while. I met a new guy from Houston who was here for 4 days. I don't know how he found Willow, but he found it. And he was an avid pickleball player coming to enjoy his sport in our town. But I don't like waiting in line. You know, I like to slam the ball. I don't like to dink. Some people don't like to play with me. And I paid for that a couple of times. But anyway, and a good friend of mine, she handles the organization for about 35 boomers playing pickleball at Hobble Creek. Well, what's happening there? Suddenly, the last 2 weeks, I think now, every morning before 8 o'clock, she's next to the phone to reserve and pay for 2 courts. She does that daily for 30 to 35 baby boomers because they were being shut out of Hobble Creek. So that's the status of pickleball and the demand. We've all heard the numbers and the passion for pickleball. You know, 47, that makes me 75. I hope for another 20 years of pickleball. I'll be playing that guy. Thank you for considering this, but do we need more courts? And so be it if that's Eagle Rock. Thank you.
Thank you. Greg Smith. No Greg Smith. Okay, Kreslin King.
Hello, I'm Kreslin King, 3317 South Old Hickory Way, Boise 83716. I am, unlike a lot of folks here, a new resident of Boise, and I'm also brand new to the game of pickleball. And I have to say, I joined this sport to meet people. We didn't know anyone here when we moved here. And so it's a great opportunity to meet folks and of course for physical exercise as well. But I also like the fact that it's inclusive for all sport, all skill levels. So that gave me an opportunity to meet people and to do something, exercise and be healthy. I vote for 6 courts at Eagle Rock, absolutely, because of my experience. I'm on the east side. The only place I can really play is Manitou. That's the only place I've tried to play. And like I was one of those folks that was there this morning at 8:30 and all the courts are full and 11 rackets are up. So I ended up not staying long and leaving. And it just seems with the growth of this vibrant city here in Boise, that there would be a little bit more designated courts to have a balance that is a little more fair to this amazingly growing sport of pickleball. And so ditto what everybody else is saying, I can just see that this would be something that we really need to have these 6 courts designated for pickleball at Eagle Rock. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark King.
Hello, I'm Mark King. Here with my wife. Address is 3317 South Old Hickory Way, Boise, Idaho. We moved here a year ago, purchased a home on the east side, and Parks and Recreation are 4 or 5 times we came here to check out whether this is the place we wanted to retire to. The beautiful parks and all the recreation activities were a big part of the reason that we moved here. And then we got here and discovered the sport of pickleball, and it really has become our primary recreation that we do in our life. And it's unlike golf, which I tried to teach her, which did not go well. Pickleball is so inclusive, any skill levels can play. And probably most importantly to us, you know, I could go through the list of all the benefits and why it's so popular. I think we've heard them enough. But the social interaction part, we moved here, we didn't know one single person. And just the way pickleball is set up, and you can drop into these courts, you play doubles, you meet a brand new partner, you meet your opponents, and it really is a community, and it's really made us feel part of the community. And I never saw this coming. I hadn't really heard of pickleball until we got here. But I understand now why it's the fastest growing sport in the country, because everyone that experiences it, I think, has the same type of reaction and you know, the same benefits. So you've heard so much, all the, you know, the reasons, the health, the, you know, the exercise, but basically it just kind of gets down to really an allocation of resources to meet the needs of the vast majority of people that are going to be utilizing the courts at Eagle Rock. And that is going to be pickleball players. And, you know, we need, you've heard the wait time for everyone. We need these now. It's great to have the vision. We're going to build a big complex out in the future, but that doesn't help us right now. And we really need this at Eagle Rock, and hopefully you'll consider that, and appreciate your time.
Thank you, Chair. I think I'm ready to ask a question.
All right, go ahead.
We've had folks reference these long wait times. I'm just curious, what are those like? What are folks doing while they're waiting for a court to be able to play?
I mean, they're waiting, but you know, I mean, obviously people are, you know, are talking to each other, but you basically are waiting. And the problem, like I showed at Manitou this morning, and you have to get there at 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm not really a, you know, morning player. So it takes, you know, to avoid injury, you really need to loosen up a little bit. You get in a game and you rotate after 2, and games can last only 10 minutes. So you get warmed up, you play a couple games, and then you sit for 30 minutes and you completely cool down, and then you try to warm up again. And that's actually hard on your body when you're trying to play, and you're susceptible to injury when that happens. So, you know, it's just a negative aspect of the overuse of these courts.
Just a quick follow-up, Mr. Chair. I guess I'm wondering what the interactions with folks are like. Are folks getting upset with each other?
No.
Okay.
It's so inclusive and friendly. It's actually,
okay.
You know, I hesitate to say it's great because you meet all these people, and you know, you're making friends and all that. You know, I don't want to come to the conclusion, oh, this is great that they aren't able to play. They're, you know, they're building relationships.
Okay.
Even though that happens, it's not
Great.
really.
Thanks so much.
Okay.
I appreciate you answering that question for me.
Okay, Josh Howard.
Hello, Josh Howard, 1617 Gorley Street, 83705. And I play both tennis and pickleball. My daughter has played tennis all through her junior high years and will continue to play in high school next year. And we have no shortage of places to play tennis on this end of town. A few that spring to mind are Fort Boise, East Junior High, Williams Park, Ivy Wild, Ann Morrison, Julia Davis, a brand new complex at Timberline, and a bunch more. Pickleball is a bit different. On this end of town, we have 4 dedicated pickleball courts at Manitou. That isn't nearly enough courts for the amount of players that we have. The crowds are getting younger and younger. When school is in session, we have players from BSU joining in every afternoon, including Maria, one of the women's tennis coaches at BSU, who is very good at pickleball. The next closest to us is Willow, which is about a 20-minute drive, then Hobble Creek, about a 30-minute drive. And I think it makes the most sense to install 6 dedicated pickleball courts at Eagle Rock. It is far enough from the nearest homes to not be a nuisance. Parking won't be an issue because there's a bunch of parking by the old pen, and I will walk across the field. And for less than $9,000, we can't get more bang for our buck. Pun intended. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael Blickman.
Thank you. Michael Blickman, 810 North 19th Street. First, I wanted to thank you for having now a 2.5-hour meeting, because the alternative was to watch the January 6th hearing. So I'm really happy to have missed that. My wife and I moved to Boise about 5 years ago. We're in the North End. There are really no other courts for us to play on other than Manitou, Hobble Creek. I went to Hobble Creek today. Interestingly, 'cause I've never been able to get on there, but I got on the courts, and all of them were full. And you've heard everything under the sun tonight. I really, as somebody else said, I don't envy your conference and your decision about this, because it really is tough. I mean, you're going to make somebody unhappy, and no commission really likes doing that. When I look at this kind of decision, I too look at it as my friend Frank said, as it's part financial. And if this is the only choice that the community has, I don't see any other alternative but to go ahead and convert these to the 6 pickleball courts. And it's unfortunate. It's a great problem for you to have. I mean, you've got this excessive number of people who want to be active, and it's a great problem. Not all cities have that, but Boise does. And it's because there's a culture here, a vibrant culture of people who want to be active. And that's in part why we came here. I had occasion just a couple of weeks ago to go to another event, and Mayor McLean was talking. And she was talking about the connections that people make in Boise and how important it is to make connections among people who are of disparate backgrounds, but also socioeconomically. And again, this is somebody has already said this, but I want to just reinforce that. At Hobble Creek today, I played with an African-American, I played with 2 Asian Americans, I played with a 12-year-old, I played with his mother, who trounced me. I mean, she's, totally humbled me. But, that's what pickleball is. It's a really diverse sport. So, and I think, there's really no debate that you should do what you can to encourage this. I hope you don't see this as a vote against tennis or against Eagle Rock neighborhood or against really anything, because to me, it's a vote for making more connections among people in Boise. And that's really the most important thing. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, is Councilmember Halliburton.
Yes, go ahead.
First, I have to take off here in just a second. At my other job, we're doing a free kids bike repair night, and it's starting to get pretty busy down there. I saw just a second ago that my face was 12 feet tall on the wall over there, so I turned the camera off. But I have been listening to everyone, and I just wanted to let you all know that I appreciate you coming down and wanting to build a stronger community. I also wanted to make sure that I thanked the commissioners who kind of have to make a decision tonight. They're all volunteers that are here, just like folks you in the community. They're not paid for being up there, and they do have to make decisions that are based off of a budget and what we have the ability to do. And I think if we could, everybody up there would love to build 30 new pickleball courts in all sorts of different areas of town. But we also have people requesting swimming pools and splash pads, and the repairing of historic pools that we have, and skate parks, and a variety of other things. And so it is a challenge to balance all these things. And so when we can find an opportunity to look at the resources that we have and do that in a way that's affordable for folks, and is within the city's budget, it makes for tough decisions, but it's also decisions that we have to make. So I appreciate all the commissioners that are up there and the decision that they'll be making tonight. And I'll be checking back in later to see how long the rest of the meeting goes.
Thank you, Councilmember. I wish we could make it 20 feet tall. Okay, John Romero.
Hi, I'm John Romero, and I live at 6012 South Wallflower Place in Columbia Village. Wow. So we have a lot of soccer fields there. But anyway, I do support converting the 2 tennis courts at Eagle Rock into 6 pickleball courts. I've been a Boise resident since 1977. So boy, have I seen this city grow. But I still love, even back then to now, that we have all these open spaces and all these parks that we can use for all of us and we can play our favorite sports, which pickleball now is my favorite sport. But the one thing that I haven't heard yet is that, yes, I play at Manitou, and yes, it's crowded, but we also play in the winter. Of course, if it's snowing and raining and really windy and really cold, we'll go to Fort Boise, but it's really crowded there. But yes, we do play in the winter and utilize the courts in the winter. So anyway, that's my take on it. Thank you.
Thank you. And is it Maggie Romero?
My name is Maggie Romero, and I live at 6012 South Wallflower Place. And I think they've said everything that I have written down, so I'm just going to be short and just kind of let you know why I play pickleball. I played for the recreation, the socialization, for physical fitness and mental health. And I think one thing though is that it can be addicting. So there's a lot of these guys that play every day, and I'm right there with them. So just to keep it short, I vote to support the conversion to 6 pickleball court at Eagle Rock. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I have, is it Pell Daly? Pell Daly?
Peg Daly. Yeah, I know my writing's atrocious.
It's not the worst.
Yeah. I am representing myself, and I live at 3817 West Grover Street, 83705. I thank you for your time and consideration and allowing us to speak. I regularly play Manitou. Not going to repeat everything that everyone said, but I also every Saturday for the last, I think, 2.5 months have played at Eagle Rock. There's a group of us that will get together and play, typically about 7 or 8 people. The last 3 Saturdays, there's been another group that's played. So last Saturday was 2 groups of 7 people each, and we each brought our own nets. So 14 people on that court, no one on the tennis courts. And for the last 2.5 months that I've been playing there, I've only noticed people playing on the tennis court 1 time. I think that pickleball for me exudes that Boise kind spirit that we have. Every game we play, we get to know each other and get to know everybody's names. And I remember the first time I was playing at Manitou and walking off, and a couple people shouted, "Bye, Peg," as I left the courts. And I was like, oh my gosh, they know my name. And it was like, and it was just such a feeling of inclusion that got me to go back and back. And now I consider them some of my best friends. So thank you for your consideration. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Are you sure they didn't say, "Hey, Pell"? All right. Dave Madison? Okay. David Cleverton?
My name is David Cleverton, and the address is 3270 West Agate. First of all, I'd like to thank you for sitting through all this. We know it's not only your volunteers, but it's a task. So from a personal standpoint, I played tennis for 20 years until an injury to my shoulder took me out. I was also a volunteer for the USTA, which is US Tennis Association, for a number of those years. And throughout a large percentage of that time, declining membership was always a topic of discussion and something we were always concerned about. How do you get more tennis players into the mix because membership is declining? And that's something we all see. We see tennis courts sitting empty. And that's just a change in the demographic. But if you think about the demographic, it's a changing demographic. And the reason I say that is because more and more people, in fact, you could talk to the majority of these folks, a lot of them have played tennis. And for some reason, they either play into tennis now or they've switched to something new, and that's pickleball. Easier to play, easier on the body. In fact, one of the gentlemen brought up that was in support of option number one, the fact that that he's a tennis player. And if you look at tennis, again, you look at Tennis Magazine, 2 months ago, one of the pro pickleball players was on the cover of Tennis Magazine because they look at it as a gateway. You know, let's get people into pickleball and then they'll play more tennis to increase the membership. But it all comes down to one final thing, is that we're dealing with a demographic today that is enthusiastic about pickleball. More people are playing pickleball and a declining membership for tennis. And that's why we're having the discussion today. But along with that discussion, we brought up Boise schools, and one of the, Doug, you brought it up in one of your pieces, your PowerPoint presentation. There's a question there. Well, I can tell you from a personal standpoint, we go out to some of the junior highs and high schools to be able to find a net so we can drill. Nothing more than drilling on a net. And yet we see people have taken chalk marks, they've taken old duct tape, they've taken pieces of cardboard to create pickleball lines because there's pressure to find a court because everything is so full. And I don't necessarily believe that's a good thing. I think Boise schools wants to keep their tennis courts clean and pristine. Thus, we need more pickleball courts. So ultimately, when we're dealing with the support to change Eagle Rock, I'm in favor of converting it to 6 dedicated pickleball courts.
Thank you. Linda Mcgrath. Okay. Cindy Matoto. Yeah.
Hi. Mr. President, members of the commission, good evening. Thank you all for being here. For the record, my name is Cindy Montoto. I live at 718 East McKinley Street in Boise, 83712, and I am authorized to testify this evening on behalf of the East End Neighborhood Association, also known as ENA, where I currently serve as Vice President of the Board of Directors. Usually I'm in a personal capacity on the other end, so I know that I need to adjust this. ENA received several emails regarding the proposed changes to the Eagle Rock Park tennis courts, and the majority of the emails that ENA received were in support of converting one or both of the tennis courts to pickleball courts, although other respondents were not in support of this conversion. Some of the concerns will be highlighted below. With the growth and popularity of pickleball and the small number of pickleball courts available in the city, there are major concerns with parking impacts on the current, I apologize, on the current already limited parking at Eagle Rock Park. Overflow parking along the road to the park's parking lot or at the Table Rock Trailhead is not an adequate long-term solution, especially when accounting for ADA accessible parking. There are also concerns with increased noise levels and sound impacts for park goers and homes that are located at the west side of the park, especially during large events. Due to the equipment used, noise impacts from pickleball is something experienced in other parts of the US and has been described in a recent Wall Street Journal article published on June 28th and in a Los Angeles Times article published on March 3rd. Noise impacts from pickleball can affect infants and young children enjoying the playground, pets, and those with sensory processing disorder, veterans, all populations that spend time and enjoy using the neighborhood park and playground. ENA has received suggestions that the city should conduct a noise study prior to moving forward with this proposal to ensure that these properties are not impacted and that current noise ordinances are met. Eagle Rock's 2 tennis courts are post-tension courts specifically designed for tennis, and excluding tennis opportunities completely at this location is not a balanced approach. This forces tennis players out of the park. There is room at Eagle Rock Park and other locations for constructing pickleball specific courts so that tennis recreationalists in the East End do not lose access. While most feel that both pickleball and tennis opportunities should be available across the city of Boise, Some East End residents have concerns with completely excluding tennis from Eagle Rock Park and only offering pickleball courts. Residents have voiced that maintaining Eagle Rock Park's tennis courts as is with pickleball lines on them, option 1, and adding dedicated pickleball court construction to the Parks and Recs capital improvement plan will preserve the park's post-tension tennis court asset, provide pickleball and tennis players a place to play, and assure that dedicated pickleball courts will be built in the future. At this time, the East End Neighborhood Association takes the compromised position on this issue, and we support the status quo of sharing 2 tennis courts for both tennis and pickleball players. ENA recommends that the city provides capital improvement funds to conduct a noise study that would guide the design of a new set of pickleball courts at Eagle Rock Park in the near future. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Kurt Simpson. Chris Cloherty, is it?
I'm speaking for the pickleball club, just so you know.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Mr. President and commission members. Thank you for allowing me to speak to you. My name is Chris Cloherty, and I'm the president of the Boise Pickleball Club, and I live at 2284 South Breed Place. Right now, there are only 3 parks in Boise which have any dedicated pickleball courts, and all 3 are full many hours of the day. They're used every single day, spring, summer, and fall, and even on winter days, as John Romero said. There is always a crowd, and usually there are people waiting. Now, according to Parks and Rec, there are 126 tennis courts in Boise. Today, you are only being asked to convert 2% of them to tennis courts. There are over 64 tennis courts on the just east of 50th West, all across the city. But in that whole eastern portion of the city, there's only 4 pickleball courts. That's a giant imbalance. And that's the thing we hope that you can rectify, or at least begin to rectify. Parks and Rec has recognized there's a great need for pickleball courts, but they do not have the money to build pickleball courts from scratch, and land is also a big problem. They're not certain when they will be able to build any new courts, but they have told me it honestly could be years, telling thousands of citizens, many of whom are well past retirement, that they should wait years for courts to be built some indefinite time down the road is really not fair, particularly when lightly used tennis courts can be converted immediately to meet that need. With little money or land, the only solution available to Parks and Rec is to look for tennis courts they believe are suitable for conversion. They've selected Eagle Rock because they believe it is the park on the east side which is most suitable for conversion. In fact, I have been told that they believe it appears to be the only court, the only park on the east side which is suitable for conversion. This is very important for you to bear in mind as you weigh your decision. Eagle Rock Park right now is the only option for pickleball courts. You've already been told there's a great benefit to converting 2 tennis courts to 6 pickleball courts, because you will get 6 times the usability. You'll get 24 players on those courts in an hour versus 4 tennis players. Furthermore, and this is really important in a city that needs money, and a Parks Commission and a Parks Department that needs money, you will be able to do this for essentially no money. Parks and Rec has stated they can make the entire conversion for less than $9,000, which is less than $1,500 a court. You'll get 6 courts for $9,000. They've also told me, some people here have said, well, they should just build you some courts. Well, we'd be glad for that. Parks and Rec has told me a reasonable current cost for building 6 pickleball courts from scratch is $1.2 million. 1.2 million versus 9,000. You should think about this. The savings are staggering, and that's extremely important to consider in a city that's struggling to meet many other needs. I'm sure the city council could find very worthwhile uses for $1.2 million. They could do an awful lot for homeless people, refugees, or other people with substantial needs. I had to shorten this because I thought I had 15 minutes, so forgive me. Boise prides itself on being an inclusive community. And in that spirit, I urge this commission not to exclude a large number of its citizens from the public courts they need and use heavily, and that's the pickleball population. Now, one issue has been raised by several tennis players, and that's a lack of access to courts. I used to play tennis. I played a lot of tennis. A lot of these people play tennis. We love tennis. We also love pickleball. But you have to remember, the people in East End will not be deprived of pickleball courts. There are 6 excellent lighted courts on the other end of the East End at Fort Boise. So they will have a place to play. It will not be taken away from them by any means. Tennis players, we all know, can play anywhere in this town. Pickleball players cannot. That's important to realize and remember. A very important thing for you to bear in mind is that keeping one tennis court at the park will do nothing to relieve the severe lack of pickleball courts throughout the city. Having only 2 pickleball courts, which are in fact both options 1 and 3, would simply be maintaining the status quo, because there's already 2 pickleball courts there, the portable net option. So that would maintain a status quo that is already unsatisfactory, and one which will only grow worse with time as more and more pickleball players appear every month with nowhere to play. If you want to solve the problem, the only solution is option 2, which is full conversion. Excuse me, I just want to get my water. I'm sorry, I'm so dry in my throat. Residents have also raised questions about possible noise in parking, and both those questions are reasonable and understandable. However, Parks and Rec chose this park after concluding in their professional opinion the noise should not be an issue. The first reason is that the nearest houses are more than 300 feet away from the courts and only on one side of the courts. Parks and Rec can do things to reduce the noise further by putting up sound reducing mats. They can restrict hours on play. But maybe the most important thing for you to know is that I've spoken to Parks and Rec, and these courts have been doing pickleball for 2 years already. And in the nearly 2 years, pickleball courts have already been in use at Eagle Rock Park. To Parks and Rec knowledge, no noise complaints have ever been received. So take that into account. Noise has apparently not been bothersome enough to generate complaints in 2 years, and I doubt, in view of everything I've said, that it will ever be. Another question raised was parking, and that's legitimate. And I have concern for parents that want to get to that park. There's only one relatively small parking lot adjacent to the playground and courts. However, Parks and Rec knows there are 2 very large dirt parking lots across the grass to the east of the courts that will provide plenty of parking. And they intend to erect signs in the primary parking lot requiring pickleball players to use the dirt lots. I will fully support this, and I will guarantee you all our members will as well. We want to play pickleball. We don't want to take the park away from the people who need it. We don't want to take the parking away from the mothers and the kids either. Now, most important, or more important than this, is the fact that this park was not created to be just the exclusive property of the neighbors. It is also a city park and was intended to be available to meet the needs of all city residents. Therefore, I urge you to consider the needs of all city residents as you make your decision. I've got a lot more time here. Look back at my speech. I cut out a lot of stuff. Due to a severely limited courts on the east side, you've already heard people spend an hour driving to Hobble Creek at times back and forth, and that's not environmentally desirable. Think of the cost of gas and of the carbon emissions and air pollution caused by people doing this. This is not in line with Boise's goal of being a green city. We can improve our environment and save citizens a lot of money and time by converting the parks at Eagle Rock. Bear with me while I drift in my speech. I think I've got most of it. What?
Cover the cost of portable nets.
No, that's my wife. She's had this discussion with me. I did that and I changed my speech, and let's not go into it. Tennis players can play anywhere in town. Pickleball players cannot, as the following figures will show. And I've already told you there's 64 to court. Another thing to 64 courts to 4. On the north side of the river, from 52nd West all the way to the east side of the river by the 21 bridge, that's 11 miles. There are zero dedicated pickleball courts. There are none along State Street, none in the north end, none in the east end, none in Harris Ranch, but there are many tennis courts. Once again, that is not equitable. I ask you to keep all these things in mind. We don't want to take courts from tennis, but we are forced to ask you to help us by converting these 2 courts to 6 pickleball courts. You can solve a great need at almost minimal cost of $9,000. So finally, I suggest respectfully that you are the Boise City Parks Commission, not simply the Eagle Rock Parks Commission. You were selected to represent the interests of all Boise citizens, not just those of one neighborhood. Installing 6 pickleball courts will dramatically improve the lives of hundreds, if not thousands, of Boise citizens. It will also save the city nearly $1.2 million. It's easy to tell you to go build 6 courts, but you're not going to have the money. In view of all that I've said, I now ask you to make the fairest decision on balance for everyone. Please authorize the creation of 6 dedicated pickleball courts at Eagle Rock Park. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Tim Carlson. Who's going to oppose that? All right. Richard Cogan. Is it Cogan or Logan? Cogan.
Hello, my name is Richard Cogan. I live at 2563 Burgesson, Boise, Idaho, 83706. And I am here to support option 2, the conversion of 2 tennis courts to 6 pickleball courts. I started playing pickleball about 2 years ago through Boise Parks and Rec. I took one of their classes at Eagle Rock. And I've noticed that a lot of the people I took the classes with have continued on playing pickleball and have brought their friends in to play pickleball. And I play quite often, probably 4 or 5 times a week. Finding a court to play on is very difficult. I've been to Manitou. I've never been to Hobble Creek or over to Willow Lanes because I live in the other end of town, where there are no pickleball courts. And but I have been to Eagle Rock, like I say, for lessons. Every time we play, it's always difficult to find a place to go. We have gone to one place, it's been full. We've either driven or ridden our bikes to a second place, it's been full. And I've even, as a third place, I've gone to Ivywild and just played on a tennis court where there's no stripes, no special nets or anything. And there's never a tennis player there. I've been there twice to play pickleball and there's no one there, but all the other courts are just full. I think we need more pickleball courts. The number of players has taken off in the 2 years that I've played, and I see new faces all the time. One other thing, when Chris was speaking, he talked about, spending an hour going out to Hobble Creek. I was just thinking about that, and I did some crunching of numbers because I like to do that sometimes. And it would take 1 gallon of gas to drive from East Boise to Hobble Creek, about $5. If 20 people did that a day, that'd be $100. In 2 weeks or 15 days, you'd have paid the cost of gas and everything would have equal converting one of those courts. In 15 days, 90 days, the money that was spent traveling around would pay for the whole thing. So I support option 2. I think I've used my time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Nick Gableman.
Hi, my name is Nick Gableman. I live at 1414 East Washington Street, Boise, Idaho, 83712. I grew up and live in the East End. I teach tennis for Boise Park and Rec. This is my second summer doing so. I play on my college tennis team at Linfield University and plan to coach as my profession. My challenging, rewarding path that I'm on started at the walking or biking path that leads from my home to the tennis courts at Eagle Rock Park. I would walk on that path on my bike, quickly and easily arriving at tennis courts. This is the park of my youth, my neighborhood where I worked to perfect my tennis game. In the winter, our family could play at BSU indoor bubbles with our membership. That has been closed since the start of the pandemic. My student membership was eliminated at the Boise Racket Club in favor of year-round student members, and we are now on the waiting list. Continue to rely on the Eagle Rock courts. I play twice a week at least. At my job, I teach to inspire young players, and I want them to develop their own game, have fun, learn from it, and play for their school teams. I want them to enjoy around their neighborhood park without barriers, just like I did. It feels like a home to me. It's everything. When I toss the ball, it's just, I feel so at peace. And I understand the noise can be a problem. There's a huge area of grass. I know it costs a lot more to do the whole resurface. Long term, I don't know if making one court or the other, keeping one tennis is the best decision. With that big field a little bit further away from the houses. I'd also like to bring up Bagley Park. East End, 2 courts I've never seen anybody play on, huge field. I've really never seen anybody play tennis there besides myself. So thank you for considering the youth of the East End. Please do not eliminate tennis from our neighborhood tennis courts.
Thank you. Doug Joseph.
My name is Doug Joseph. I live at 4536 North Toradon Way, 83702. It's been a long evening. I'll try to keep this short, but I think I have something new that hasn't been said yet after all these fine talking points, which is that Boise is known, the Parks and Recreation is, you do a great job for all of us taxpayers, but you also do a super job for all the visitors that come into the city. And I think John had mentioned he was on the pickleball courts this morning with someone from Houston. I've been out there playing with people who have come into the city from all different states. And when I travel, I bring my paddle with me. My wife and I bring our paddles. We were just in Portland, Maine. We Google where are the open courts, open play. We go there in the morning. We make friends immediately. You've got ambassadors here. The pickleball community is extremely friendly, not just here in Boise, but all over the country. And when people come from outside to visit Boise, and pickleball players come and they bring their paddles, they find the places to play. And they meet these fine folks that are behind me today. We are ambassadors for the city. And so I am for converting Eagle Rock to dedicated pickleball courts because it's not only good for, it's not only equitable, it's not only good for taxpayers, the players here, but it's great for people who come to Boise to visit and enjoy the outdoors and the recreation that we have. Thank you.
Thank you. Don Rush.
Hi, my name is Don Rush. I live at 517 South Walnut Street. And the lights just went out. So it's a sign. You finished, and that's not a good sign for me. So besides having to look at my mug on the screen, so in the dark. No, I felt compelled to come this evening and advocate for the 6 dedicated pickleball courts. I have a little different take on everything that has been said tonight because I echo everything that's been said on behalf of the pickleball community. I I live down by the Kristen Armstrong Municipal Park, right across the street in those townhouses there. So one of the things that I really enjoy is right now during the summer time, there's about 100 kids across the street from my place playing soccer. And they do every morning, all week long. But I'm telling you, that's music to my ears when I'm able to look out and see these young kids playing and having a good time and learning a skill. And one of the things that I've been able to do 3 years ago is through the Boise Parks and Rec. Fort Boise, I learned how to play pickleball. I feel much like those kids that are across the street just learning soccer. I was able to learn a new sport, one of which I didn't have many in my life, but I've learned to not only love the sport, but the exercise, the community spirit, everything that's been echoed here tonight. I am grateful for that. The other thing is I've listened to a lot of the going back and forth of the pros, the cons, and so on. And I feel like that obviously we don't have enough courts. It's been brought up several times that this is a Band-Aid for bringing enough pickleball courts. But if you want to use that metaphor of a Band-Aid, I will use that. Why do we use a Band-Aid? To either stop the bleeding or to cover something that has been injured or needs to be taken care of. And in this case, right now, we only have the time and the money necessary for us to be able to have enough pickleball courts based on a budget that the Boise Parks has right now. And that could take place at Eagle Rock Park. And I would advocate for that. And I hope as we finish off this evening, that that's the general feeling, that all we want to do is be able to continue that community spirit and hopefully be able to leave a legacy behind of those who have played this sport, learned this sport, and teach others, that they will be able to keep that legacy going for the youth in our generation now. Thanks.
Thank you. Monica Anderson. No, Monica Anderson at, looks like 1415 Joyce Street. Okay. Virginia Clark.
I'm Virginia Clark at 306 Hillview Drive, the East End, 83712, and I've lived there for 33 years. The last time I spoke before the city was in the 90s to preserve the Eagle Rock area from encroaching development. My 3 kids all learned to play tennis there. I play tennis there. I love Eagle Rock. I vote to leave it as is and add a lock box for pickleball nets. So you can accommodate both tennis and pickleball. I just don't want to lose my tennis courts. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Amy Braun.
Hello, my name is Amy Braun. Thank you for being here, of course. We sure appreciate your decision. Hopefully it will be in favor of the converting the 2 courts to 6 courts.
I'm sorry.
My name is Amy Braun. Address is 580 South Victoria Drive, Boise, Idaho, 83705.
Thanks.
I am in favor of the 6 courts. I have only been playing since February of this year, so I'm not very good, but these 80-year-olds, these 70-year-olds, and these 60-year-olds are kicking my butt at pickleball. And you know what? We absolutely love the sport. Like I said, we just started in February, but we went out and bought 4 other rackets so that just if somebody ends up at the court the same time we are and they're just new beginners, we hand them one of our, rackets and let them play with us. So we get them involved. They love the sport. They keep coming back. So I would like to offer you guys one of my paddles. Please come and play with us. You'll love it just as much as we do. And please, please, let's do the 6 courts. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Looks like Sam Joswick. Pat Batten. Is it Jocelyn Van Nuffel? Looked like this one might have been crossed out. Okay, Nancy Haga.
Without the brace and without the hat. It's kind of fun because now we can kind of recognize each other in street clothes. Hi, my name is Nancy Haga. I live at 1902 South Lake Heron Lane, 83706. I played pickleball for way longer than my ability would show. I probably played 8 years. And very simply, I just wanted to give you an idea as to expand upon the wait time. Last Thursday, I was at Manitou, which is once again the only place in the eastern part of Boise that has 4 courts. Waited 2 hours to play 3 10-minute games. That gives you an idea as the sort of wait time that we have. When there are ladders there that are put on by Boise Rec, they take up 3 of our 4 courts, and that delays us even further. So once again, just impressing upon the huge need, desperate now to do something very, very significant. People have mentioned how friendly pickleball players are. Just a case in point, when 4 people go on a pickleball court, you introduce yourself to the other players. I don't know what other sport people are that friendly and that collegial, where you will just introduce yourselves to whoever's there and then you go on and have a great game. Very simply, this is not a war of rackets or a battle of the paddles. This is a plead for equity and a plead for vision for the future. That's it. Thank you all so much for your time.
Thank you. Tony Keefe.
Am I still last on the list?
There's one behind.
I was hoping to get some more. No, I won't prolong it, but my address is 6310 Coach Royal Lane, West Coach in Boise, 83702. I've been playing pickleball for 12 years. I was one of the early adopters at Boise. I've lived in Boise since 1977, like John here, and I've watched the City of Boise's recreational opportunities grow exponentially. And that's a lot of time is due to some of the visionaries who have been here, who have helped different programs grow in Boise. Ridge to River, Stephen Stuber, Mr. Holloway here, the Boise Parks, and what we see today is visionary to me. Jimmy Halliburton with the bicycling in Boise. He's brought that up. Different visionaries, Barb Chandler, tennis, soccer fields. You know, we've got some world-class recreational opportunities here in Boise. And I think as we can either be reactionary and kind of go, well, we need to take care of this right now or this, that, you know, but we can also be visionary. That's what you guys need to do, is be visionaries. And what can Boise do to help get this vision of pickleball? Because it is the fastest growing sport in the United States. And we've created meccas in Boise for mountain biking, skiing, soccer, softball. You know, you can name the sport, volleyball. I've played almost leagues in all of these too. I've been here the whole time. And I've landed in pickleball now. And I just think that being a visionary to see what could be done and what can happen. You know, somebody brought up the example of down at Brigham City. You know, it's a small town, 22,000 people south of Salt Lake City. Got a world-class pickleball facility. I mean, it's if you ever drive by there, just go up the street and look at it. It's really amazing, and it's, I'm sure, I know it costs money, but those are types of things that draw people into Boise and create economic opportunities. And those are the things that, if you lock on to what's going on right now with pickleball, and it's only going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. Most of us won't be here in 10 years probably to enjoy the fruits of that. But, it's something that could still grow and grow and grow here in Boise. And it could be a pickleball mecca if that was something that some people were able to do. So that's my story. And I do support the 6 courts at Eagle Rock. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Eve Clougherty. I'm sorry, but you only get 3 minutes.
All right, that's all right. I'm just supposed to say that I support the 6 courts, but I will say it's really sad that these people that live in that area can't understand that, they can ride their bikes. It's not, I drive on Warm Springs all the time. They could ride their bikes or do a family trip over to those great courts that are by Fort Boise. They are available and they're very nice for tennis. And, you could always think about doing something like that for pickleball if they don't want to use those courts. But anyway, I do support the 6 courts. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we don't have anyone else signed up for in person. Chloe, is there anyone else on Zoom?
Would anyone else on Zoom like to testify this evening? Please use the hand raise piece. It doesn't appear so.
Okay, with that, I think we'll close the public hearing. Thanks everyone for coming out tonight. We appreciate it. It's a good educational experience. We can read through the comments, but having everyone sort of express their points of view and give examples is really helpful. So from my perspective, I think we can have some preliminary comments and discussions before we make a decision. Just real quickly, I'll start off briefly. I do think we've got a great problem to the extent we have a problem. Seeing people that are so enthusiastic about a low-cost, healthy activity that we encourage is a really good thing. This is what we want, which is lots of participation, and determining what's the best use of our facilities. Also pretty clear to me, pickleball is a great thing, a good thing, growing really fast. But I personally fully embrace all the positive aspects of the sport that we've heard, which is wonderful. Community, low cost, the social aspects, getting different generations together, what a wonderful thing. I think we need more of that in all aspects of society. So that's wonderful. Also, clearly the demand is outpacing the current supply, which is what happens when people stumble upon such a wonderful thing. And clearly, if we could snap our fingers and make it happen, we'd have it be that there are sufficient courts. But like all bodies, were constrained by past decisions that were made based on the information available to them at the time, and they all thought they were doing the best, and probably likely were, in creating tennis courts. My concern here is I want to be sure that we are balancing the uses. I have concern about fully displacing a current user group. Certainly the creation of new pickleball courts is a good thing. We see in the written comments and the testimony today, however, that these tennis courts are being used. And I hesitate to fully displace a user group in favor of another. So my take, or my preliminary thoughts on this is, let's not make perfect be the enemy of the good. I like incremental progress. So I would, and this is just my thoughts, open for discussion. I am leaning towards the hybrid option, which I think we have as option 3, which is converting the 1 court into 2. And with that, happy to open it up to other members of the commission. If there's questions, comments, thoughts, etc., we can have a discussion before we move towards a motion and a decision.
Mr. President.
Yes.
It's kind of fun to listen to everybody's passion about pickleball, because we think in the Boise School District, in my day job, we teach pickleball in elementary. If you went to school in the Boise schools, in elementary school, we taught you pickleball because that's how we introduce a racket sport. And then you learned how to play tennis, and now you're back to pickleball. So that's kind of the life cycle of what we're dealing with. One thing that I just wanted to share with the commission is something that I've heard this summer that I haven't heard in 34 years in education, is some of the need that our parents have right now that are club sport parents, meaning they put their kids in club sports like tennis. They can't afford that right now. They can't afford it right now to travel their kid across town to go to a tennis center because they can't afford the gas, they can't afford the rent, and they can't afford the food. That's kind of new. I have less club parents taking their kids to club sports this summer than we ever have. That's what I'm seeing. That's kind of new. I share that just because I heard a few people testified tonight. It is so important that we have kids in the neighborhood that go to Adams Elementary, perhaps, or Roosevelt, that can just go at least to a court and walk to it. It would certainly break my heart to think that a kid couldn't have that access, knowing that the youth need to still play tennis. Unfortunately, we don't play pickleball as an IHSA sport. Should it be? Maybe. Right now, the sport that they can play and go to districts and go to state is tennis as a racket sport. I'm with Preston a little bit. I like a balanced approach. We need to have balance. We certainly heard strong testimony tonight about we got to do something with pickleball. And I think we can start working on that really in the course of all the things that we've done with Parks and Rec. One of the gentlemen mentioned, when softball needs to improve, we improve softball. Soccer, we've done that with so many. Why can't that story also be for pickleball? We're not going to be able to solve it just tonight. I don't have the magic dust to solve the problem just tonight. I think through a course of time, that's how we did it for all those other sports that are so nice that we have in our city right now. I guess my thoughts are the same of kind of a balanced hybrid, still having tennis available at Eagle Rock and pickleball.
Commissioner Stidham's got his hand up there on Zoom. We'll turn it to you. Eric, we're having trouble. You're breaking up there.
Video off. Maybe take video off.
Yeah, hey, Eric, we're still not able to hear you. Maybe there's a suggestion, maybe take your video off. Free up some. I don't know what the theory was. Still not able to hear you, Eric.
That's all right.
Okay. Anyone else? Any other comments?
Yeah, I'll say a few words. Love the sport. Recently played with my 80-year-old father and my 15-year-old son, and we had a blast. I'm not very good, but my father plays all the time, and so love to see the sport
grow and really meet the need of so many in our community. And I'm kind of in between the convert all 6 to converting one of the tennis courts to 2. And, you know, my fear of converting all 6 is frankly overwhelming a neighborhood park. But yet I think we do need to make some more, we need to investigate more what the opportunities are for striping other tennis courts and accommodating with, even if it is temporary nets. But, you know, I think the point was made by one of the gentlemen that the city has studied other tennis courts and found this to be the best location for pickleball courts. But there's, with 130 other tennis courts, there's got to be some more opportunity to create at least some temporary courts. I really appreciate the great testimony, the respectfulness, and the fun that we had there, and with Councilmember Sanchez and Halliburton attending. They're hearing the need and hopefully can relay the passion that's out there to those that are influencing the budget for the next couple of years, because there's definitely a need. And let's see. Also, we've received 140 some odd pages of comment, you know, outside of the testimony that we heard tonight. And I would say there's a maybe a 60-40-ish percentage, 60 in favor of converting the courts, 40 not in favor of converting the courts. So, you know, there is a good number that we're not here tonight testifying that do use the courts as they are now and are passionate to keep them. So I could be swayed, but I would say, yeah, either option 2 or 3 are the ones I'm feeling more comfortable with.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Mr. President, first of all, I just want to say thank you. I was able to attend the public meeting we had regarding some of this, and I just appreciate the time you guys have taken to come out and let us know what your needs are. While we're giving our time, you're giving yours too. You're sitting here and you're, you know, taking the time to write down your thoughts, and I really appreciate that. It's obvious we have need for more pickleball courts. I mean, that is just really obvious. Listening to the department, it does sound like Eagle Rock is the best place in terms of court conversion. And I am with Commissioner Raber that, you know, I would love to just convert all 6 spots, but I am also with President Carter that I'm concerned about displacing current users. We want to make sure this park is usable for everyone who wants to use it and people who've been currently using it. So I'm really struggling as well, but I definitely want to see some dedicated pickleball courts at Eagle Rock. And thank you again for your time and inviting me to go to the pickleball field and see you guys waiting, because I did see that. And it is a beautiful community, and all of those things you said about being ambassadors for Boise, it's true. And we're glad to have this community in our city. Thank you.
Mr. President, commission members, one of the items that's come up a couple of different times in the testimony was that this is the only location in the city that we've looked at and that meets any kind of criteria. So I just want to clarify that at this time, that is a true statement. But what I need to elaborate on is we have not really looked beyond this site at this time, because we're working on refining that set of criteria that makes for a potential good location for pickleball courts in terms of if there is a consideration for another conversion. And I'm not saying that at this point, but if there is that out there, we want to make sure that we have a very strong case of criteria that makes that conversion doable.
But then also carry it a step further that if there's a location where we could build courts and if money was made available, where would be the ideal place to do that, whether it be in an existing park or potentially on newly purchased or donated or currently in our inventory dirt, which we don't have a lot of that. In fact, we have very, very little of that. So third option is probably not as viable in the future as it is to look at existing park sites. And are there park sites that green space could be converted into pickleball? I think your president, Chris, I appreciate his insight. He and I have met. He's met with our team. He's very passionate. What I really appreciate and respect with Chris is that he wants to work together. He doesn't want to, he's not demanding. He's not, hey, you've got to do this for us. It's just all facts. We know what those facts are, though. You're growing. We're behind the curve. We understand that. That's no secret. The commission is fully aware of what you've shared with us this evening, but it just confirmed what we already know. But I think our commitment to you is that we recognize that, and we're going to continue to look for other options. Regardless of what the commission decides this evening, they'll continue to hear from us that we'll be looking at other opportunities. So Eagle Rock just isn't the only park that we would be looking at. We would need to refine that criteria. I would volunteer Chris to be involved in that so we can have those discussions with him and your club and your organizations on what makes a good location, and then start looking at more sites that are potential sites. It's no secret our capital budget is we're in a deficit. Councilmember Sanchez could certainly speak to that, but over the next, I believe, 3 years, we're actually looking at cutting things out of that capital budget in order to balance it moving forward. So money is not, readily available to go out and buy land and build pickleball courts. So we are going to have to get creative from an internal perspective on, how we're going to solve this problem. So we'd prefer to work with you to solve it. And we'll continue to do that. But again, regardless of the commission's decision this evening, we're committed to continuing to look for compatible locations throughout our entire inventory on what would make sense. So I just wanted to clarify, as we sit today, Eagle Rock is something that we're looking at, and that's why we brought this forward. And it was our staff decision to bring it forward. I do want to point that out as well. It was us that sat down and said, we need to start solving this problem. Where could we do it at? And this is the site we came up with. And then quickly realized we need to develop the criteria a little bit stronger on what makes an ideal location. And I've heard it from some of the testimony. It's probably too small of a park. Maybe neighborhood parks are not the ideal location. I wouldn't argue that. We have 2 other sites that are neighborhood parks, and we have issues with that sound, with surrounding neighbors. So we certainly have to take that into consideration. But there are other factors, including parking, that is of concern as well. But I just want to make sure that you all know that we understand the demand, and we're going to continue to work towards the best we can to meet the demand. And anyone out there that has money that wants to throw our way or Chris's way, he and I have had these conversations. We're open for business to take donations, but it has to be significant. And Chris gave you the 1.2 million. That's kind of what we're using as rule of thumb, is $200,000 a court. So, and it's only going to continue to go up. So, if we know businesses out there that are really interested in seeing this sport grow, and the city, we can find funding, we can do matches potentially. We want to make sure those doors are also left open as well. Again, I'll just leave you with the fact that we understand and we're committed to continue to work to try to solve the problem. Yeah, 2 courts, if that's a decision that's made, and I've heard that from the president, certainly sounds like that's not going to solve the problem. We know that. I'll just tell you, we're going to try to nickel and dime this the best we can now until something on a much larger scale comes to fruition. I didn't think Hobble Creek would get built as quickly as it did. And thank you to the pickleball community for participating in that. We got it done and we need to try to do it again. So we certainly are going to continue to do that.
Thank you, Director Holloway. Any other discussion?
I have one quick question, Director Holloway. Is there any park rules that prohibit bringing your own net and striping on tennis courts that aren't being used?
There is a rule to bring your own striping. I believe there is a removable magnetic striping, and I defer to, I believe Paula Lawson is still here. But yeah, we discourage the taping because it does tear up the paint on the court. But that really is the only rule. And I don't have the number in front of me and how many courts we have that we have the ability to have shared use. And what we get into again, and I don't want to go down a rabbit hole here with the commission, but we still do see activity on tennis courts. So even on the ones that we have the shared use, there potentially is conflict with our tennis players. So we have to work through that with pickleball players too. So it's not like it's just an open court, bring your own net. There still is tennis that does occur. And we do see some conflicts.
Mr. President, if I may. Thank you, Director Holloway, for giving us that additional information. I really do appreciate knowing that the department has this as a fairly high priority in thinking about how we develop future parks and how it can modify within the existing inventory to serve obviously the needs of the community. And I do appreciate again everyone's time this evening and sharing with us. For me personally, I think I am along the lines of my fellow commissioners that this particular proposal before us this evening has to be balanced with like the scale of the issue, that this is indeed a neighborhood park and what we've heard from that local community to be weighed against the needs of the greater community as well.
Great. Okay, everyone. I think we've heard from everyone and we're probably ready for a motion.
I would like to make a motion.
Sure.
This evening, I'd like for the commission to make a decision to adopt the third proposal of converting one tennis court into 2 dedicated pickleball courts while retaining 1 remaining tennis court.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion on the motion?
Just that I think with all decisions that we make, they can certainly be revisited in the future. And as inexpensive as this is to convert tennis courts into pickleball courts, you can convert them back to tennis courts if we find that magic location and check to build a big facility, which is needed. But we could also convert this to 6 in the future if we revisit and find out that that's, we're not overwhelming the park with the additional pickleball courts that are being added. So.
Yeah, and I would just add to that we ought to keep a close eye on the parking. I do know that the parking, there's very limited parking there as it is, and we can keep an eye on that going forward. Any other discussion on the motion?
Sort of related to the motion regarding the parking. We did have one person who shared, we were talking about, we welcomed questions during testimony, but that we'd revisit them. And she had a question about the state giving permission to use parking at the lab. Do we know anything about that, Director Holloway?
Mr. President, Commissioner Johnson, no, we have not had those discussions. Primarily, and we will, but primarily because we're seeing what has been anticipated as the same kind of use we have now, and we're not experiencing any parking difficulties at this point. So the assumption would be that if you selected option to convert all 6 courts, then we would need to have those conversations. I don't think it'd be a problem. I think there is parking availability. We just have to get creative with that. I think with option 3, I think we're not going to have a parking issue.
Thank you, Director.
Any other discussion on the motion? All right, well, I think we're ready for a vote. Should this be a roll call vote, if you will? Do we know? We're just, okay, all right. All in favor of the motion, and again, the motion is to approve the option of converting 1 tennis court into 2 pickleball courts. In favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
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 And Commissioner Stidham, if you'd do it on the chat. Oh, there you go. Okay. Any opposed? And the motion carries. Okay. That, I think we don't have any executive session items. And so now I take a motion to adjourn.
I so move.
Second.
All right. We'll vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? And we're adjourned.
Seeing you.